Okay, everybody, welcome to the July 11th regular city council meeting. Let's stand for the pledge. All right, welcome. First thing is approval of additions to the agenda. We've got some additional bills to pay. Memo from Mike Lyons for TIF reimbursement. Discuss availability of Crow Wing County tax forfeit land, and petition from property owners against road assessments. And we've got a public safety quotation for an FAA certified solar powered wind cones. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we got public forum. Action may or may not be taken on any issues raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issue will be placed on the agenda of the next council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Does anybody have anything?
I'll go first.
Come on up.
My name is Charles Paetzo. I live at 12896 Rushmore Boulevard. You know where that is, Dave?
I recognize you. Yeah.
And I'm Margaret Paetzo. I am married to this man.
All
And
right.
live at the same location.
All right, we are stating some issues regarding replacement of Rushmore Boulevard. We'll talk about the past and present.
Okay. How long is this going to take?
It should take about 4, no more than
Okay.
5.
Okay.
But if you give me
No.
time, I can do 30.
Well, let's
No. Well,
try to move it along.
All right, past. Rushmore Boulevard was paved in 1990. Dale Milton, owner of the house we currently live in, had many concerns about the drainage of runoff during rainstorms. In the past, multiple discussions and letters from Dale Milton and personal lawyers went back and forth for years, addressed to the city of Cross Lake. The past. Finally, in 1998, during a rain deluge like yesterday, Sunday, Dale Milton called a city council representative and requested that he come and see the floodwaters that were knee-high heading towards their house. The city council person came and saw what was happening and agreed that this was not acceptable. In the past,
That was 1998.
that was 1998.
All right.
In the past, Dale Milton requested a new survey of the property prior to the approval of a PVC storm sewer to help with the drainage. The survey shows that not only did they recommend a storm drain, but also added bituminous gutters on both sides of the road to help with the runoff.
we have copies of that if you need those.
Okay, well, more currently, I remember talking about this currently in
Yes.
corrections.
All right, this fix lasted 20 years, the bituminous gutters, and flooding was no longer a problem. Present. It was determined that Rushmore Boulevard was at the end of its need and needed to be replaced. At the present, Charles and Margaret Paetzo attended multiple council meetings to make sure that the new engineering firm was aware of the drainage issues in the past. Now in the present, the city council proceeded with Bolton and Mink Engineering plan to replace the road. Anderson Brothers was contracted to do the work. Present. At no time did anyone tell us that the road was going to be completely replaced, was not going to be completely replaced. That meant the gutters on both sides of the road. Present, Charles and Margaret spoke to Andrew Budil, the project engineer, and explained what the differences were going to be with the way the road was graded, and that the gutter was being added only to one side of the road due to the slant. At the present, we are under the impression that the road was going to be as wide as the past road, and there would be still an extra drainage help for our property. Once the road was laid, we realized that we had lost 4 feet of road on each side of the street. Present. We were told that the cement gutters on the other side of the road would handle all the runoff. Wrong. It does not. Present. The new road has substandard in many ways. It is now 18 feet wide, including the gutter, and not the 24 feet wide it was before. The width makes it almost impossible to bring in construction vehicles, landscaping vehicles, garbage hauling vehicles, and snowplow vehicles, as there is no turnaround available at the end of the road. Second point, vehicles must back down the street from the Y intersection in order to be able to get out. If a vehicle comes down the road front first, they use private driveways to turn around. This causes damage and ruts to form in private driveways. Discussions with the vendors that these roads, the use of these roads has not been positive, and they do not understand why the road is so narrow. Third point, it would almost be impossible for emergency vehicle or fire truck to get to the end of the road without driving onto someone's yard if there are landscaping trucks parked on the side. After Memorial, point 4, after Memorial weekend's rain, we asked Andrew to come out and see what the drainage looked like. It washed away the side of the shoulder of the Class 5 material and showed the damage to come down, showed that the drainage come down the hill and splits in a Y. It was obvious that the shoulder material was washing down into our property. Subsequent lane storms, like yesterday, has only increased the runoff and is now seeing flooding of our property that we did not see back in 2000, since 2000.
We've got a bunch of pictures that we can hand over.
Push that.
This? Oh, this one?
Now, we are requesting that the bituminous gutters or cement gutters be placed on our side of the road to stop the runoff and destruction of our yard and possibly the water in our basement.
Do you have more pictures than that?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Why don't you flip through a couple of them? We had some big rains.
Yeah.
You want that or not?
Here's the runoff.
That's part of the runoff. This is in front of our house. Seeing trails. And
Let's just go with. we just wanted to show you this. This was, we've had LA Landscape taking care of a house next door to us. And this kind of gives you an idea of how,
Where is this on Rushmore Boulevard? Is it down at the end?
yeah.
It's on at the,
Works,
it is the lowest, we live at the lowest
Okay,
point.
so you're around the corner and down at the bottom of the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was them parked the other day. If you can see where they're parked, he was right up on top of the gutter, and there is no way anybody would have gotten around that truck without going on the property, as far as we're concerned.
As far as differences, this is a picture of Rushmore Boulevard with the bituminous gutters looking towards my house on the right-hand side of the picture. This picture was taken a couple of days ago. You notice that the road is, I tried to emulate the same perspective. And you can see that the road is much narrower. And there are no bituminous gutters on either side until you look on the left side and see the cement gutters at the top of the hill.
Okay, Charles, I'm going
We
to ask
have brought
Phil,
a-
Phil, can you come up and talk to some of this?
We have these photos, and we gathered up information for over the past 30 years. Our property's value will go down instead of up if this is not rectified of some of these issues I've explained. We are being asked to pay an assessment of above $4,000 for this project for a job that so far is substandard, in our opinion.
Okay, let's hear what Phil's got to say about it. The last picture of the new road?
That one?
Yeah. Because I agree with them that this bottom area here, the bituminous gutters that were there are no longer there. They're not, so they're exactly right. The road bituminous width was similar. If you go back up the hill to where that white car is along the concrete curb and gutter, so this road varied from 15 to 17 feet wide until you got down to this lower area, and then it thickened out because they had put bituminous gutters on each side in the past, apparently in whatever year he indicated. So what we intended to do was to tip everything where that white SUV is up
Yep.
there and further. We tipped the road so it went to that concrete curb and then ran down into this area. This is a 33-foot wide, that's all the city has there. So what the major problem that we noticed and that Andrew, I think, talked to you maybe last week or whatever about was, we are seeing from where that Suburban is, that driveway up there and further up, water is short circuiting. It's not being tipped out to the road. It's not making its way out to the road to hit to the gutters. And I think that's part of the reason you're getting erosion on your side. I think it's running down and creating havoc. Because isn't your house the green one there with the 3 or 4 vehicles parked?
Right.
Yeah.
the white-
Right, so your neighbor's up there to the, above you with the white, right? With the white vehicle?
This vehicle.
Right. That's your neighbor up above you.
Yes.
And what's happening is in this area, at least
In this,
to
on
speak.
this side of the road, we lost the bituminous gutter, and the class 5 that was laid there and the shoulder is now washing down.
Right,
into
because
our
it's rolling off here and staying down there.
Right, it is
and
not
that's-
rolling down.
So it's not coming off here, and one of the things I think Andy talked to you about was we can get back here and we can extend this area in here and force, instead of this runoff coming down into your area, to get it onto the road so it goes over there. But we wanted to wait because we knew you were coming to the city council to talk to them about this, and we weren't going to do this until we understood what they wanted us to do. But he's exactly right, that it is narrower because we weren't trying to shed water both ways from the center of the road. We were trying to shed it one way. And so our road is not as
That's true on the hill.
wide.
Is that true down here on the flat too?
True on the here, and then down to here, it flattens out, and just, it doesn't have the mono slope anymore.
So it's just
So-
crowned and going off both ways, the water?
Right. The mono slope is through the curved section, but it is narrower than it was, because what they had before, we believe, is the bituminous road and then 3-foot gutters on each side, because the whole way down, they were trying to do that. But, so we picked 16 feet wide, and then we put the curb and gutter and we slanted it. We were trying to be less disruptive down in there. I recognize it isn't the same amount of parking space that was there before. Those were bituminous gutters that were part of the parking space, but it's different. It's the design we discussed with city staff, that being Ted, and it was the approach we took when we put these plans together. And for the most part, Anderson Brothers has built it, except for we have that short circuiting at the driveway. And we think that would help a lot.
I'm
Yep.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
Here's another example of after the rain,
Throw that up on
all
the,
the sand, it's up.
oh, that's it, okay.
Yeah, this is the sand that,
It's running down.
right,
Right by our house.
right, and that's why I'm saying,
Yeah.
we think if we catch that further up and push it onto the road, it slides across, and this is a lot of sediment and fines coming off of your neighbor's driveway down this edge.
Yeah.
So we agree. I think Andy had said to you that we think we can get to that driveway, we can shed the road by extending that edge off onto the road, and then we can, if the council feels that it's necessary to have wider down there for parking, we can increase the width of the shoulder, but, you can see there are limits how far we can go.
But it was 3 feet farther on either side before.
Yeah, they had bituminous gutter on each side.
So they lost 6 feet altogether.
So that's narrow in there. We have a 2-foot,
There's the same thing, 2,000, with the bituminous gutters.
So, it's okay.
Yeah, I get it.
yeah, it is
They're
wider.
disappointed that
It
it's
is
not
wider
back
down
to where it
there
was.
Than what we put back.
So what
It
were
is
you gonna
wider.
wait and come to the council for? Is this, sounds like a
Nothing.
change order coming down the road?
We were going to add the material up on the top of the hill so that it pushed their neighbor's driveway water back onto the road and over to the area.
And what is that area? It looks like it hits the other neighbor's driveway then. Are you running the water down
There's-
onto that other
Well, there
lot?
are existing catch basins down there.
Oh, they are, for the
That's where
water.
your,
Okay.
that's where your catch basins are and your
Yeah,
PVC
drainage,
goes out.
there's two.
In
That's where
this
you're trying.
picture, this is the picture before the base layer bituminous got put down.
So where the
So where
cones
the
are.
cones are is where the drainage,
The catch basins are.
catch basins are. And that distance on center is 23 feet.
And they were in the road before now.
And they were there.
Right.
You didn't put them, they were there.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
they had they had bituminous gutters on each side because the road is chromed, so it was going each way. And now we have what? We have the blacktop is built up around, on each side, but the road is narrower in this area. Yep. It is, it's exactly, that is the design that we discussed and developed with the city.
With staff and
Yeah,
Ted?
with Ted, yep. But I mean,
I don't know why it would be less than what was there. I mean, I would be disappointed as they are, if it were mine. And how you got there, I don't know.
well, I think the reason we get there is because we are shedding water to one side, and there's not a lot of room down there. So we tried to maintain that width.
But if
throughout.
that storm catch basin on the your side of that picture there, I think it's right by that white power pedestal or something?
No, it's further up. It's it's behind the back of his truck.
But there's one on either side of the road.
Correct.
Right here.
Yeah, isn't that where the one is, on
Yeah.
that side?
That's all full of sand right now.
Right.
So
And then-
wouldn't you want the bituminous to go to that drain basin? Or is it? in a-
So we shed everything this way, and then it runs down into this one.
And this one
And then we-
sheds it straight down towards here.
Right, we don't have a
But we don't have.
gutter on that side.
There is no gutter on this side.
So they-
Because the ground is doing that. That's why the sand is there, right? That's the shoulder that's going up to that, and then we have bituminous around the catch basin.
The bituminous gutter is missing.
So we have about, from this is the last house on the left, right? And then we have end, and your neighbor to the end. So there's, is it 3 houses back here?
No, there's 5. 1, 2,
Okay, so
Three.
the road ends essentially,
yeah.
how much past this?
50
50 feet?
About good 50 feet.
50 feet past. So the road ends, so we are controlling water from 50 feet beyond this back that way to that catch basin. A lot of the stuff is coming down that hill, and it's raging down that hill, and that's why we're rolling into a concrete gutter.
So the correction is to fill in that gravel portion on the side between the 2 driveways.
Well, I think up by that white SUV.
Yep, all the way down.
We need to correct so that, we need to add material so that the water is shed off of his driveway or their driveway instead of down their side of the road. It kicks onto the road, it goes onto the curb and gutter like we want. And then if this area down here, off the back of the trailer, right down here, I should say, we have that as gravel. Now,
It was bituminous before.
it was bituminous
You put it-
before.
I think you got to put it back in as bituminous. Put it back in like it was.
Is the gutter within the right-of-way?
It is.
Still
it is,
gutter
yep,
is in,
Yep.
so if you
So we
put the
have, we
gutter,
have 33 feet here and we're using up about half of it.
oh,
And then
okay.
16 and then,
The property owner signed an easement of 20 feet to work in, to put in that drainage.
Gutters, okay.
But the city council
In-
gave us that.
in the past, right? When you-
Father-in-law that letter.
Okay, Phil, it is repairable, is what you're telling me.
yeah, we can put bituminous in there. What we, I think, cautioned, I think Andy might have cautioned you on putting a 2-foot ribbon or a 3-foot ribbon of blacktop in that area won't look as finished as this that's done with the paver with a screed. But you can put blacktop in there.
I think they need the sustainability of the area versus some looks, okay?
Yeah, well, again, we're saying it was wider. This
Yeah.
is what was the plan that was bid, though, this, you know.
Yeah.
And we do have to do a little bit of work up on this area, because we know that's where a lot of their runoff is running directly in. It's
So
coming
up
around
on the
there.
hill, this side of that white SUV, how wide is the road bed up there? Is it
16.
16? And it's
16
16 all the way
2-foot
down?
shoulders, out to the main road. You know, this is kind of the dead end part of Rushmore.
Yep.
It narrowed down, it was always narrower, except for down in this area, it was wider where they had the bituminous gutters. But it was 15 to 17 wide, and then when you get back onto the main, it's 23 to 24.
Okay.
This is a rendering of the 2000 survey, and this
Here,
has.
they want you to-
Come on up,
bituminous-
come up here,
I
Charles,
want to talk.
just so we can hear you, so we can record it.
I'll cut it out as this. This is the exhibit that the engineer sent back to my father-in-law, and as Exhibit A, to show of the roadway. And this includes on the top of the hill where that white SUV, these dotted lines signify the bituminous gutters. And on the other side, this is the gravel where that white car is parked, and the bituminous that goes in front of our house all the way down to the drain.
Right. So with their approach, they had a center crown, they were shedding water both ways, and so it would come down through a bituminous gutter, which is not an erosive material, into these catch basins. I agree 100%, that's why it was wider. What we did was we tipped the road, instead of having a center crown, we tipped it so it was only going this way.
You meant to tip the.
Meant to tip it, we put a mono slope in it so that the water would go, then we would need one curb and gutter over here. What didn't happen was this water didn't get caught and shoved out here, so it's short circuiting without having a gutter there.
So
If we
is it-
kick it out this way, we believe we take care of the water going this way, but it does not take care of the wideness down here that was there before.
You make sense? He makes emphasis of the 16-foot at that particular crown of the road. The old road stayed to almost 20 feet wide from that point all the way to the intersection where it splits and merges into Rushmore Boulevard.
And it was 20 feet because you had gutters on both sides.
Yes.
That's not what we have all the way back. We don't have.
No,
topo
but
shots
to
of
the
bituminous.
intersection, I think is what he's saying. Not
I
all
think
the way.
he's saying, I don't think we have that. I think we actually located the bituminous along there, and it's only 15 to 17 feet wide from the intersection coming up into these areas right here. Isn't that what this is showing?
This road itself, this is the big survey
Right.
drawing. And I will narrow it down to this. This shows right away of 33 feet. It shows a bituminous arrow, bituminous surface labeled. This is 1 inch, and the 1 inch scale is equal to 20 feet. So this road continued, in my opinion, all the way to the intersection.
Right. And what I'm saying is, we shot that out in the field and it didn't continue. That's why we picked 16, because it ranged from 15 to 17. And that's the basis of why we have 16.
Plus the gutters, Phil, right? Plus the gutters.
This is a Crow Wing,
16.
Down there, but not up here, yeah.
this is a Crow Wing County to that intersection. This is that picture from Crow Wing County GPS. Now this is a second issue that I have. This is another issue that I have that I need to bring forth. That Ted, instead of, in a meeting, I requested a T intersection and put up signage that would say arrows left and right between Kenwood Trail east and west. Ted's recommendation was a Y intersection. This was originally just a hole, and you could go over the top. The commercial vehicles could back up over this top. Now they can't do that. They have to go down and around instead of like
But
we
you don't
thought.
have the hole in the middle of it. You don't have that island anymore.
We don't have the hole in
It's-
the middle no more.
It's a T.
Correct,
No,
so it's not a T.
It's not
So
a T.
if
I
you'll
thought
note,
Squiggly
it was
T.
going to be a T.
if you'll notice, one of the things that, a couple of things that was discussed during design, this was an uncontrolled intersection. There was a desire to control which things were happening at that intersection. Rushmore Boulevard continues around this way. The road in the past was built on the property owned by the Fish family. So one of the desires that we had was to make the road go to where most of the housing is. Most of the housing actually is over on Rushmore Boulevard. So the primary street, in our view, and in the view of the city when we worked with Ted on this, was to get outside and maintain that that is the travel. Then the Rushmore Trail comes to a stop sign, which may not be up because of supply issues. That's the secondary road because it only serves like 4 properties. So that's why, no, it's not a T. It's a single with a T coming in this way.
So the bituminous curb is going to take care of the situation.
We think that it'll take care of the situation for handling the stormwater, but they have stormwater on their side because we need to make sure that we push their neighbor's driveway runoff onto the road so it gets into the curb.
Okay, so do you agree with that? The bituminous curb? The way he's presenting it?
Do I agree?
Well, I mean, is that going to remedy it? In
In my opinion, no, because in my other estimation, the road is still too high. When they grounded up the road, they did not carry away material. They grounded up the road, used it as a base layer, and then put a base coat bituminous and a second coat bituminous, which made it higher. than the previous road
But-
elevation.
You would understand that we're not going to take up the road and that we're probably going to put a curb in.
The catch basin should handle the water, right?
Yeah.
The catch basin should handle the water.
We actually, if anything, we've very small amount, reduced the amount of runoff that goes there because we have a smaller bituminous section. But there shouldn't be more runoff there. It should be equal amount or less. The issue is we do have to solve his neighbor's driveway. We got to get the water to kick out onto the road, not down his side. And that addresses a bunch of the issues they're having with their house. The parking isn't addressed unless we pave a little ribbon more or we widen it with more class 5, which we have class 5 there right now, but
But then it would be wider than the rest of the road.
yes.
Well,
Which way is the longer, more permanent fix?
Oh, the blacktop.
And
Yeah.
let's just do the
I mean, you
blacktop.
can build the blacktop out, I think, yeah.
Why don't you work with them, figure out the best way to do it? Why don't you let me know? I'll come down there and
Sure.
look at it with you. And if one of you guys, all can't go, but somebody wants to go down there, but we got to fix it.
I think Andy has been trying to work with them.
what,
Well, invite me to come along and then you'll have a witness.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet, thanks. That was an awful long 4 minutes, I'll tell you. Who's next? I haven't picked that hammer up yet.
Hi, Pam
Hi,
Graves. I'm not going to be that difficult, I don't think, or challenging. Mayor, City Council, I'm here tonight. I'm Pam Graves, Sugarloaf Road, Cross Lake, Minnesota. And I would like to ask for a plan, TJ, do you have the pictures? To reduce illegal fireworks on our lake during the July 4th weekend for next year. So let me explain. Picture on the left, if you can see it, is our normal puppy dog. And the picture on the right is him with a thunder jacket on, July 4th, with illegal fireworks going on in our lake. We could prepare him on days that we know of legal fireworks, and there is a legal permit on our lake for one night.
Are you on Big Pine?
We are on Big Pine. So there's one night that has legal firework permit that was approved by the city, and I applaud the group for doing that. The challenge, so we can prepare our dog, put on the jacket, do comforting things. What doesn't happen then is that there's a proliferation of illegal fireworks because of this nice display, I think. And our dog then has been traumatized every night since the 1st of July because the fireworks started on Friday the 1st instead of on the 4th. I know a few years ago, there was one family who set off illegal fireworks and the police were called, and the family was adamant that it was their right to have fireworks because their grandfather had done it and they're going to do it and they're going to teach their grandkids to do it. And the police apologized for having to come out and bother them about this.
Eric, what do you have to comment about that? You've been involved in it?
And I'm not here about the history.
Specifically,
but-
I don't know of anything like that. I know that when the Cross Lake Police Department gets reports of fireworks, we try to go out there, we try to handle it, we try to shut them down. And probably half the time they're done and you can't find them. On
So-
the other hand, during that week, I could have 10 officers and I wouldn't be able to respond to all the fireworks, so.
You're not alone.
So you have 37 miles of, or I don't know how big our town is, but it's much bigger than the ability of our police department to run after the fact, because by the time they get out there, the fireworks are gone. So the challenge is, how do we work with this knowledge for next year? Because next year, I don't know if anyone's looked, but the 4th of July is on a Tuesday. So my dog is going to be traumatized from Friday all the way through to Tuesday night with these illegal fireworks. I can't even imagine if you're a veteran who has PTSD, who's sitting there, and you never know when they're going to go off. You just know when it
Yeah.
starts to get dark, and the booming starts. Our dog just, it's trauma. There's issues, there's fire hazards, there's noise pollution, there's water pollution. All these fireworks drops phosphorus into our lakes. Our lake is a very shallow lake. It shouldn't have all this phosphorus dumping there. And I request that somehow we come up with a plan. I don't know if it's communication. I know that one of the homes that set off the fireworks was a VRBO home. I don't know how to communicate to them or tell them that this is not acceptable. It is illegal in the state of Minnesota unless you have a permit. And there's only one that I knew of that was permitted on our lake. So I'm just requesting,
Yeah.
with a year's notice, can we do something different
There's
to
not a
protect?
simple answer for that, Pam, but I'm sure Chief Lee will look into it.
Yep, I will help with communication if that's
Yeah.
what's necessary on Big Pine Trail.
Let's just keep talking about it.
To say
I don't know.
illegal fireworks are not permitted, you will be called, and, put some teeth into this. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Lindner. I'm going to be wore out by the time this Public Works is over.
Yeah. Mark Lindner, Pine Lure Drive, Cross Lake. The last two storms we've had, Memorial Day and then the one a couple weeks ago, the road I live on, a private road, has been covered with trees across the road. And hold on, I didn't have my phone off either. And it's not an issue. I have spent the last 2 weeks clearing my road, and everything on the side is basically hauled to the city. And thank you for leaving the city open during the week so we could drop the brush and everything off. I appreciate that. I'm worn out, but the issue is both storms, trees across the road, there is no access for 27 homes on Pine Lure. This last storm, at 7 a.m. the next morning, city employees were out clearing Bay Shore Road, which is across the bay from me. They didn't clear the trees out. All they did was cut down the middle and push them off the side so there was access. And the neighbor told me they told them that the city employees, that all the city residents deserve to have the fire department and ambulance able to access the residents. Well, what my concern is, the last two storms, it was me and a couple neighbors that cleared the road, and the city never stepped a foot on it to clear it. I know it's a private road. I'm not asking them to haul it away, but I think we should have the same. I'm a taxpayer, so are those 27 residents, and I feel we should all have the city able to push that aside so the ambulance, we have elderly people, heck, I'm elderly, that need to have care if something happens.
So your question is, you live on a private road,
Yep,
but you would like there to be access for the emergency vehicles.
that's correct.
So you got Eric and Chip, do you guys have anything to comment
I
about
have one more thing to
that?
say.
Okay.
The first storm, there was a power line down the first pole in from 3. So there was no power the whole road, and the power line was down, so that I don't think there was any issue with power. The second storm, there was a power line down about a quarter mile in, but nobody from the city came to even look. They couldn't get through the road because there were 25 trees from my driveway to the road. Nobody came in to look to see if there was a power line, so that wasn't an excuse for not coming in. But it's just, I would like to have it where all they would do is clear it so an ambulance can get through or something.
So how do you guys react to that?
Well, initially, I guess I would defer to Brad with city employees doing work on a private road, where the liability is there. And then secondly, I mean, during the winter, if it snows, we're not bringing a snowplow down the road. I mean, that's a private road.
We have to pay our own snowplow guy. We do.
You plow it.
We have a hired guy that plows it. We all, as residents, pay for it.
How
We
about a
get
tree,
nothing.
how about a tree guy? No tree guy?
I did it. I'm it. Okay?
Chip, do you have anything to say to that or not?
We differ on our opinions, but we did check the road. We go out with Public Works and the power company to work on all the roads just to get emergency services. We were there, but there were power lines in those trees. Once we see that, we move on, so. But yes, we should, I mean, whatever the city wants to do. I mean, emergency services is very important, but not just his road, Bonnie Lakes, Greer, we couldn't get down any road.
Right.
So it's not just his road.
Manhattan Point.
Manhattan Point,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if there was something in Manhattan, I had to take my car and go
And
through
it was
yards to
days
get-
for
yeah,
all of them.
yeah.
I mean,
it's
so
not-
everybody was in a bind.
Everybody was in a bind until the power company comes.
But even if the power company comes, I have cleared the roads people can get through. But Bonnie Lakes wasn't nearly as bad as my
But you can't say that.
road. I can, I have a witness here that.
I know, but I was there what time were we there, Eric? 10? All night. All night. We were there during the storm. I have a picture on Bonnie Lakes with the front end loader, and the trees were 20, 25 feet higher than that for about 1,000 feet.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's whatever.
Anyway, it is what it is. A storm's a storm. There's power lines. You can't go near the power lines when they're
why don't you
down.
guys fix that road up? Moat City will take it over.
I'd love to. But I will say, nobody came down the quarter mile to see where the power line was this last storm. They couldn't get down the road.
They did. My guys walked in.
They walked in?
Yes, they did.
All right, I was out going over the power line that was down and being careful there in the road.
Yeah, well, and that's same with them. They don't want to go wrestling around with it either.
So, anyway, I just feel as a taxpayer, I think that the city should have a responsibility to give us the same access that every other citizen gets.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
I'm not sure how to answer that one either. Huh. Gonna flunk the test tonight, huh? How many private roads are there in town like that? Pine Lure is a pretty reasonably long
We
road.
got Anderson, no, not Anderson,
One of the Andersons is.
Anderson Court isn't. Be that
Mullen
as it may,
Beach,
we'll-
yeah.
I mean, we understand that there are roads that we have to get to, or residences that we have to get to down roads. The fire department was humping through a lot of roads, and so are my officers that were out, and Sergeant Meyer was down Bonnie Lakes Road removing trees, going down the whole way. We couldn't even get to a house that had a tree through it at the end of Tamarack. But we're gonna get there. I mean, if we have to get a boat to get out to the end of Pine Lure Road, there are many of us who have access to boats that we can get out to somebody in need of medical attention or something like that. We'll get there.
So really,
Figure it out.
the brutal truth, the answer to them is if you live on a private road, you 27 people got to figure out a way to fix it.
That's the way our ordinance
I mean,
reads, and
yeah.
until they decide to improve it to city standards, then we don't take it over.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's not what you want to hear, but that's probably the truth. Anybody else have anything about that?
Can we play the lowering taxes then? We're not getting the same service.
That's what Marcia just whispered. Well, we could talk about that, but, yeah.
Well, I do have something to say. I think that we can't turn our head again, away from this because of the fact that they're on a private road. You still want to provide public safety and emergency service to those people. So,
But the storms that we've had, I'll just touch on a little bit. It's taken the guys 3-4 days to clear out the roads as it is. So it still is going to be a delay. It's going to be a priority. I don't know how you figure out which one. to
okay,
do first.
so if there's a 911 call, wouldn't the city clear the road so that emergency
many
vehicles could get through?
times in the past,
Okay.
we have had
I
city
think that-
services come in and clear a road, clear a path that we can get an
Yes.
ambulance or a fire truck down to where it needs to be. A lot of those guys are actually using their own vehicles to clear the path.
I
So,
think that's the answer they were looking for. Would the
like I
emergency
said
service?
before, we will get there. We'll figure it out.
But if it's a 911 call, I would assume that the city will be there.
I hope it's a
I
broken
think that
leg
was
and
the
not a heart
response they're
attack.
looking for.
Okay. Anybody else for public forum? I don't see anybody coming up, so we'll close public forum. Next is the consent calendar. All items here are listed to be considered routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so requests. Did we all look them over? Motion?
I move we approve it as submitted.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, all in favor. Next, first we have a public hearing. Who's going to take the public hearing? Brad or Mike or?
I guess I am.
All right, Brad, thanks for volunteering.
I can see Kevin walking up. Maybe would you like to start with, he's on behalf of the applicant. We could ask him to present the situation, and we would definitely want to call a public hearing and let the public speak as well, but it seems to make more sense if the applicant would talk first.
Do you have the packet there?
I do.
Maybe we should review this.
Well, we will, but I mean, we can have the applicant talk and present what they want us to hear.
Sure.
The council can go through the checklist. Obviously, you want to ask if there's any public comment, and in the end, you need a vote on it.
Okay, come on up, Mr. McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Kevin McCormick, Land Design Solutions, 11821 Lake Trail, Cross Lake. Representing the Rokas this evening in a request for a road vacation. I know these have all been a long road, so to speak, pardon the pun. I'll be brief. I just want to touch on some of the highlights of the property itself. This property has requested a road vacation back in 1973. It was denied at that time on a 3-2 vote because the ordinance didn't allow it. At the time that happened, the attorney actually had made a request to the council that each one of these road vacations be looked at upon their own merit. Well, the ordinance not allowing that, it was not approved. Now we're going to kind of fast forward to now, where we know the state statute does not allow the city to do that. It is a part of this process. And in that process, the Rokas have had use of this property for many, many years. The driveway that was here was built prior to them even owning the property. As you know, last year, they went through the process to have this paved. And then while the city worked through its guideline process to remove these right-of-ways, based on the new ordinance, we took that time to let you do your thing, and here we are today. Nothing has changed on the property. We're talking about an old roadway, Arlington Heights. It's in a bluff zone. The access to the water has a 60% slope to it. It is highly vegetated. It does not provide viewing vistas of any kind. It doesn't provide any kind of traversable means to get to the lake. And that's kind of why we were here today. So we've gone through the new process. We've gone through dirt, and we've gone to the Park and Recs Committee, who recommended approval. We then moved on to the Public Works Committee. Do want to clear up one legitimate factor that was brought to our attention at that committee meeting, and it was concerning the sewer system. The Rokas sewer system is existing here. Nothing new has been added. It's been here since they've owned the house. As a matter of fact, 12 years ago, there was a variance granted to this, and it showed where the sewers were and how they're using them. The existing structure is less than 4 feet to the road right-of-way. So this sewer line has been here for a number of years. It came down and then went across at a 90-degree turn down to the drain field along Manhattan Beach Boulevard. That was causing them some problems with freeze-up. So before this pavement went down, it was recommended, same line, existing line, remove the 90, a 45 was put in, to go over to the sewer system on Lot 15. So this was nothing new, it was nothing nefarious. When I was working on my own property, I think I mentioned this at the Public Works Committee, I have a relationship with the city and the city public workers. I asked them about it, and they merely just told me send them a sketch. They knew I had a certificate of survey, they knew what I wanted to do. They said send me a sketch. But the key point on that was that the Public Works Director told me they don't have a formal application or process here. So again, it's a concern, but it's a non-concern. This roadway affects public use. It's not owned by the city, and the Rokas are part of that public. You know, so this was an existing line that went in here. It changed directions to make a more efficient sewer system for the Rokas, but it is not new. It was not new. Nothing was done there. So I just wanted to clear that up. At the Public Works Committee, we were, of course, disappointed with the 3-2 vote not to recommend. It seemed to be very biased and opinionated. I don't think that group had a real grasp on the road right-of-ways and how they work. Be that as may, they made their decision and we move on. It was recommended by the Parks Department, as I mentioned, and we also have a letter from the Department of Natural Resources who viewed this. And they're one of the key components in any of these road vacations, and they gave a very positive spin to this. The letter was very nice. I hope everyone read it. It wasn't a long letter, but they actually commented to the city of the job they were doing in these. This isn't something that anyone is taking lightly. Each one of these should be viewed at their own merits. And in this particular case, when you go through your 11-point bulletins here for guidelines, I think what you're going to find is that all of these are answered in a positive fashion. So we have a roadway that's been in existence for a very, very long time for use of a driveway. It has never been used as a public road. It doesn't provide any opportunity for viewing vistas or launching of boats at this landing. And I think everything starts to formulate to the, as the DNR said it, this is a logical means to an end here. The advantage for the city on this is this 20-foot roadway. Our intent here, as it was also brought up during the, I think it was the Varley application, where the owner owned both sides, he was going to take one of these this 20-foot strip and attach it to one of these lots. That's an advantage for the city. It now makes it a legal non-conforming lot. We make 80% of the required 100 feet. It now becomes a taxable basis for the city, and it gets rid of a roadway that is clearly not being used by the public. This doesn't mean that every roadway out here is going to be gone. These need to be addressed on a case-by-case basis as you're outlining in your guidelines. And I think this is, as the DNR said, this is a logical roadway to let go. The Rokas are here this evening. I know they would like to make just a couple comments on this. The neighborhood is here. Both adjoining property owners are here. Would like to speak with you briefly. We did explore the possibility of moving the roadway from one to the other. That's not a situation that the adjoining property owners want to embark on.
Why is that, Mr. McCormick?
I will let them speak for themselves on that one. If that roadway was also moved, the Rokas have an existing garage that they are using and is well maintained on lot 15, as well as an active septic field. So they would lose those opportunities as well. Again, we're not here looking or setting precedents here that all of these roadways are going to be viable for removal. They're not. They're not. This one does fit the guidelines that the city has worked through. It's been given the endorsement of the state of Minnesota, the Department of Natural Resources. It has been, it's going to be approved or recommended by the neighborhood, by the neighbors. And I think it's a good format for us to start this on. So unless you have any other questions, I will let the Rokas come up and make a quick statement if you'd like, if they could.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, City Council, Mike and Lisa Rocca at 12190 Manhattan Point Boulevard. I don't really have anything to add other than what Kevin said, but I want to make myself available for any questions that you may have. And I think Kevin kind of stated it. We think the 11 criteria kind of speak for themselves, but no point in rehashing that unless there's questions.
I got a couple comments on it. We have released a couple of these lots, and we've asked people to put them in a conservation district where they don't do anything with them. They stay natural, they stay wild. This one is right directly in the middle of your now 140 feet. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm going to play the devil's advocate here and say you're going to tear down your house, or you're going to build a new house in the middle and utilize that whole lot. And, I mean, it would make sense. I'm not saying you're going to do it. But if you did that, how could we assure that we're going to maintain 20 feet of natural woods to the lake without anybody touching it? If this were on the side, we'd say we're going to put a conservation restriction on there and you can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
We have done that in the past and people don't pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
They go ahead and mow it. You're not going to mow it because it's too steep.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to clarify, are you talking about the bluff side, obviously?
Right. The lake, the bluff, that's what we're
Right.
concerned with.
And why can't we write something into that?
That we
Saying that we
wouldn't-
wouldn't touch that part? Because there's nothing, there's already two accesses, right? There's one on one side of the property and one on the other side of the property.
I don't see on the survey that there's anything on the other side of the
There,
property.
we have two lots, right? One
Right.
lot has an access, and we have an access on the lot that we're actually living in. We call the other lot just the green space, because that's what it is.
So you don't have an access there. You could have one, but you don't
There's
have
a
one.
walkway that goes down.
Okay.
It's not
But it's
showing,
totally-
It's not showing it on the
No,
survey.
it's totally covered up. It was just a man-made.
It's just
Yeah,
You're gonna
it's
walk
very
down it
old.
every day.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's a very old walkway. It
No,
was used
but see,
at
this,
some point
this
in
shows
time.
what they got going on. Nothing over here.
What we can say, though, is not only is this area, it kind of presents itself in green space because of the bluff laws. I think the ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong, on each lot, you only get one access down. So the bluff here would come into play. You can't do anything in it. I think Mayor Nevin's concern is, okay, let's say we take the 20 feet here, add it to lot 15. Would we do something in that area? I don't see any real reason why we couldn't provide a conservation easement from the top of the hill to the lake in this roadway to protect that green space and the bluff. It would certainly augment the situation, as far as the bluff rules.
And if it is one access, then it's a then it's done.
Correct.
I think
Correct.
it's as simple as this. For the same reasons we're requesting vacation and identifying it as completely unnavigable, we would never, for those same reasons, we wouldn't undertake to make it navigable. It's already that way. So we have no intention of doing that regardless of hypothetical expansions in the future. And if it requires a covenant, so be it, which is fine, because
But what has historically happened is people go in and cut all the trees and whatever. And then you come in after the trees are gone, what do? They're gone.
Yep, I
So-
hear you, and I think it makes sense.
So do you have any, do you refuse to trade 20 feet on your Lot 15 side for the easement?
Trade or reload?
Well, relocate the 20 feet to your lot line side.
Yeah.
I
so-
see that there's 3 structures within that 10 feet on the other lot line. So it's like, we got kind of a mess.
That we inherited.
Well,
you know,
you
that's
inherited
what it
it, and
was.
now we got to face it. So
Right.
I'd like to trade 20 feet. If you want the center, then give us 20 feet on the side,
So then
on
you're
lot
asking us
15.
To tear down our garage, move our well, or our septic, move our drain field. I mean, that's a huge, I talked about this with one of the other committees. That's a huge thing. I mean, is that really?
Well, you could keep the 20 feet in the center, too. I mean, it's a choice thing.
it was stated that there's a lot of neighbors here in support of what you're doing. I know for a fact there's a couple neighbors here that do not support it.
Right.
So we got to listen to them too.
For sure.
Yep, I agree. Anything else?
So, okay, let's open it up to the neighbors. Who wants to come up and say something? See, the trouble with our lakes here is they're getting so built up that we got to be careful with them.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor.
Name and address, please.
Oh, my name is Kevin Haas. We're at 12143 Manhattan Point Boulevard, and we own a house there. It's on the inner part of the point. I also own 3 other parcels of land directly across, pretty much, from the public access in question here today. So, just reading the resolution, whereas after a public hearing held on this date, the City Council finds that it is in the public interest to vacate the property as herein described. So my question is, what is the public interest of vacating this property?
Good question.
I heard the discussion earlier, and it appears that it's in Mr. Rocca's interest for the property to be vacated. The property is probably worth, at today's valuations, about $130,000, and it's a giveaway.
You're talking about the 20-foot strip.
The
It's
20-foot strip
$130,000.
is probably valued around $130,000 at today's values.
Yes.
It's a giveaway, okay. So, can anybody answer my question? What is the true public interest of giving away a piece of property that, frankly, none of us own?
City does not have a deed for it. The city doesn't own it. This property was developed by Mr. Cavalier in 1926 for the purpose of people with inner lots to have access to the lake. Now, the other day I was talking to neighbors about it, and some neighbors say they don't want it to go. But there's a lot of animals, deer, wildlife. They use it. They can get down to the lake, otherwise they can't get there if everybody uses all these spots. I happen to know, we used to dock our boat at Ruth Munis's place. And we've been up here 20 years. And I walked down that trail probably 200, 300, 400 times in a number of years where we had our pontoon down there. And it's wrong to give up this property. Mr. Cavalier developed it for the people to use it. But right now, you can't use it because there's cars parked in there. And if you go over there and use it, someone's gonna intimidate you. Well, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I know our discussion today is about this parcel.
Right.
But the broader question really is all these access points, they're being chipped away one at a time, given away. Really, the intent was for the people in the inner part of the point to somehow use them. That was the intent of the developer. I don't know what the legal documents that exist are, but that was the intent on anything I've read. That's what it says, basically. And there really hasn't been really any effort by the city to do anything, to help, to create the availability of people to use these accesses. You know, I think what most people in the inner part would really just want, very simply, is for them to be marked where they are, so that if we walk on this property, the property owners on each side understand that that's public property and that they're not browbeating the people. Because I've walked these properties before, and if somebody is there, they browbeat you. What are you doing here? Why are you here? this isn't your property. There's no indication that they're public property at all. So that's really the bigger issue here. But I think it's a bad precedent to just start giving away public property. It's a bad precedent. And frankly, I think he talked about the tax base. If the council and the city would think more long-term, the tax base is much greater if you provide access for all those lots that are on Cavally Point, or on the point, on Manhattan Point, Cavally Woods, and all the other properties for future development. If those buyers of those lots that develop those lots and build homes, if they know they can send their kids down the street, they can walk to the lake and go swimming, that's a benefit. That's a tax benefit for the city, because those property values go up, right? They don't go down, they go up. So I think that's the kind of view that the city really needs to take on these accesses. And one of the fellows that couldn't be here tonight, one of our neighbors, Brian Smith, he had an email exchange with someone at the city, and they said, well, it costs us $4,000 a piece to survey those lots or those parcels. And I'm like, well, Brian, I don't know. I just had a survey done, and it was well under $1,000 for 3 lots. So I don't know where they're getting a $4,000 number. But the point is, people would really like these parcels to be available. You know, yeah. I realize this is a difficult parcel. I realize you can't walk straight down that hill, although I've snowshoed down that hill years ago in the winter. But I guess my plea to the city is, can somebody think of some way we can resolve this? I mean, it's been almost 100 years where these properties were designated for the public. And the public really, in their minds, was the people that bought those inner lots, right? Because they don't have lake access. So yeah. Okay. That's our point here.
One more question. What happened to that committee that was supposed to be formed to talk about these accesses at one of the last meetings?
They came up with this list. They did meet.
Did they announce the committee? I never heard about it. Nobody.
Well, yeah, you should have been on it.
Well,
you could have been on it.
Nobody talked about it. I know the attorney.
How did we do that, TJ?
Meetings were posted on the city website.
Yeah.
We watched the meetings, we set them up at the meetings.
Yeah, so it was out there, probably not.
He's almost 90. He doesn't monitor the city website.
Yeah, right. No, I get that.
He doesn't do anything online, basically.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yep, your point's well taken. Anybody else?
My name is Kevin Heinecker, 12212 Manhattan Point Boulevard, Cross Lake. We are adjacent to the Ruckus property, and
you're the one that doesn't want to move over.
I don't want to move over. We'll get that second. More importantly, for us, go more to the broader issue, because that would be more about me and more about Mike, and less about the city and less about what Harold was here for. And I was at the Parks and Rec Commission. You were there, and I think that what the city still has here is actually pretty impressive in the number of these that are available still on that particular area of trout and whitefish. I think the intention, and I wasn't here in 1926, was probably exactly, it was already spoken, is get access for the inner properties or other members of the public to be able to have access to the lake. Now, I don't know what the total number is now. It's quite a few, 40-something.
40 or 60.
Yeah, and of
60
those, let's just,
citywide.
now I'm going to make up a number, let's say 5 of them, 6 of them, probably, even if people want to have access, can't get access. And this particular strip is one, given already discussed with the bluff area and the growth and everything else. You can't see the lake, you can't get to the lake. They used to be able to get to the lake when Ruth lived there, but that was Ruth's property, not the right-of-way easement itself. So I think that idea. I watched online last year the first meeting you had on this, and you talked about coming up with this committee, and I got to say I'm impressed at how quickly you got that together and how that seems to be working pretty well, so that you can have these kinds of hearings tonight to talk about these specific issues on a case-by-case basis, and case-by-case being the critical element, because it isn't going to be 45 of these that are going to go away if you take one and make a decision on it. I think that precedent is a big word, but it doesn't have to happen. The city council gets to control that every step of the way. So I think that the intent of these rights of way can still be met. I think taking some of them away that have no purposeful use by the public whatsoever, can't get to them, the revenue that can be generated for the city to help maybe put the signage up that highlights the ones that have the real access. As I said at the commission meeting, I grew up in White Bear Lake. On that lake, the village of Birchwood has a similar setup. It's historically, they've got the rights of way, many of which have that kind of use you want. It's flat to the lake. A dock is put out there, 6 boats are put on that dock. Sometimes it's just a fishing dock. So the people don't have the lake access and don't own the lakeshore property can get to the lake and use these things the way they want to. I think that's something the city can do. Sounds like they're trying to do here, and this is an opportunity to start doing that. But in the meantime, the ones that really serve no purpose for the public to get to, and really this doesn't really provide any value for the city, are the easy ones to drop off. It just so happens it's the one right next door to me. And so let me speak to that issue. I can't speak for the neighbor on the other side. Moving it just creates a whole bunch of other issues. Mike and Lisa have already addressed their septic and a garage and all the expense of moving that. But even if that weren't there, why would another property owner go, sure, move the public access closer to me, closer to where I am? That might sound selfish, but you're going to, using me as an example, if you try to think of that way on a go-forward basis with other easements, you're going to run into that same issue. People are going to go, I'm doing fine. Why would I want to give up what I have? This has been like this for 96 years. Doesn't make sense that it should affect me that directly. So
These people that have been in the inner lots have had that access since 1947, and they're saying right now, why give it away? It's not yours to give it away.
I understand where Harold's
So,
coming from. He and I talked
Yeah.
after the commission meeting, but they had access through Ruth's lot when Ruth was still alive. And that's where they kept their dock. They didn't have access through the right-of-way easement. That's not how they got down to like the sheep trail, wherever they had to get down the bluff was not on the easement itself. It was on the property that's no longer owned by the public. It's already owned outright by the Rokas, and so it's a different kind of an issue. I understand the history that they have living right across the street, but it's also my understanding that there are other nearby rights of way to where those properties are that might be more amenable. I don't know that, but I know there are more there. So,
Yeah.
So a little bit of it is a confusion between the lot that Ruth used to own and the right-of-way that's in the middle.
I think of what a lot of my deliberation is, I don't know how these guys are, but environmentally wise, we're gonna have a 140-foot lot now that can be blown up and open wide up.
I think he made a very valid point there. I think Mike had a good response to that. I think that might be, I can't speak for Mike, but I mean, that could be a solution that solves that issue. It sounds like you've historically done that in the past with sort of a conservation covenant of some sort.
It's just how do you police it? How do you enforce it?
Right, yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
We could agree to a lot of things today
Right.
that'll go away tomorrow.
Right, I'd say you hire a bunch of lawyers, don't do that. I'm one of them, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, no.
No.
It's
Yeah.
a tough thing to
Right,
do.
yeah, I
So
agree, yeah.
leaving it like it is, we can police it, you know?
Yeah, but with a conservation covenant, it is what it is. If it's violated, it's violated. I mean, in order for somebody to expand a 140-foot lot that they now own.
Are you an attorney?
Unfortunately, yes.
So you can do something if they violate environmental.
You can sue to enforce the covenant. Or if he was going to build a bigger.
You should talk to him.
If he was going to build a bigger mansion, if he's going to build a bigger mansion in order to get the zoning done right, to get it approved, the city would have to pass through the city. The city would be aware there's a conservation covenant. The city should know before they even start that they can't do it. So you can't just start to build a brand new house without going through all, I haven't done it up in Cross Lake, but I'm assuming it's the same as any other municipality, so.
If it was done, yeah.
Right, yeah, fair, right. But that's an extreme scenario if somebody tries to build without asking a brand-new house.
Well, that's what, we hear your side, but we also hear a lot of sides from other people who say,
Right, no,
why are you getting rid of them?
listen, I
So-
hear where you're coming from. Yeah, there's a lot of legitimate positions on
Yeah.
this issue. I just think this is an easier one, and not because it's right next door to me, it's just an easier one because it's a useless parcel from the public right-of-way perspective, and I think that's probably what the purpose was in 1926. So that creates an exception here. That's how I see this one. Not the other
No, there's
45.
quite a
Listen,
few
I'm
of them.
supportive of a lot of the other
Quite a
ones.
few of them that are just like this.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm Chuck Duddingston. I'm at 12158 Manhattan Point Boulevard. And I don't have a lot to say except that this is a piece of land that is completely unusable, completely inaccessible. I'm assuming you've all been there and seen what this looks like. I mean, the reason that someone would ask Harold and his son what they're doing on that property is because there's nowhere to go. If they're wandering around on that 20 feet, that's really all there is for them to do, because there's no access to the lake. They can't see anything from there. It's nothing but bushes and trees, which I know the Rock is well enough. They're not going to bulldoze those bushes and trees down to the lake. So I've been living there now since '09 and have never witnessed anyone walking down that area in that space to be used publicly, because it simply can't be used. I think that would be the reason that it should be given away.
Thanks.
You bet.
Yep. Okay, what do you guys think? Anybody else want to say anything?
I just want to differentiate between, there's a large zone.
I'm sorry, but you gotta come up.
Yes, the slope down to the lake, yes, you cannot walk, I can do it, but a lot of people couldn't walk down that and walk up it.
Yep.
The section that goes from the road to the bluff is a totally open piece of property. So it's not true that it's like bushes and everything. That's just not true. When you get to the lake, in the fall, you can see the lake, okay? The leaves fall, you can see the lake. So this isn't some rough piece of property. He has a tar driveway up it right now. So, okay, just to clarify that.
Thanks. Well, what do you think, Mr. Shura?
Are you going to close the public part?
You all done? All right, we'll close the public portion.
I can't answer the question of what's the public benefit for vacating it. I don't know what that benefit would possibly be. And the other thing I know is that these spaces for access, there isn't any more being made. It's just like land. We have what we have. And I hate this policy. It may have to go,
What policy are you referring to?
the one we have here,
What part of it, or what are you saying?
the vacating process.
So to back up on that, I mean, again, I've spoken about this before, but you have to have the policy because we're part of the state of Minnesota. The state of Minnesota says when there's platted right-of-ways that have not been used by the public, we should get rid of them. This looks to me like one of those. The public benefit would be put it back in the tax rolls, and if you have 47 or 63, I've heard different numbers, 64 is what I heard, but whatever it is, I'm guessing more rights of way than you think you have the budget for to sign and survey and mark and put in a condition where it's safe to use, then maybe conserve your resources and get it down to a number that's manageable and spend your money on those. When you don't do anything and pass the buck, you have confrontation, which is what we've had, maybe not on this site, but in many that I've been involved in, because it's not knowing really where it's at. The neighbors want to use it as their own. The city doesn't put any money into it to maintain it, so it's just kind of no man's land. So that's the public purpose. Your job is not, this one, everyone's different. So it's the council's job to say, well, I could see some future in this one, so I don't want this one to be vacated, but you don't have the ability or authority to say, we're not going to do any of them. The state very clearly says you can't do that. But they can't tell you which ones to say yes and no on. That you do have the discretion. You have to let the public or the applicant come up and ask for it. You have to get public input. You could vote no. The state can't say no to that. But you have to have this policy to allow this because it's state law, and state law preempts city law. So it's not something that's going away unless the state law changes. But it's been there since the state was created. But it's up to what you get from feedback from the neighbors and what you believe if blocking the property, not just current use, future use. But if you don't see the public benefit of having it there, the state tells you you're supposed to vote for vacation and focus on ones that you actually can maintain and use. Because there is a liability to have rights of way that are not maintained or marked by the city. That is not good policy. And I've been saying that for 7 years.
Why do you say that, Brad, though? Because we don't own it. What liability is there?
It's public lands, and the state law is very clear. If it's public property and it's in the city of Cross Lake, we have a duty.
We're liable for
no
it.
doubt in my mind. It's very obvious. So if you got a bluff and people want to try to use it and it's steep and dangerous and we don't try to mark it or put stairs down it or something, you're asking for trouble. I've said that 100 times, I think, in the last 7 years. I get people think of the free giveaway. That's not how the law says we're supposed to think of it. Is there a public benefit? If so, keep it, and not just now, forever. Because once you give it away, you can't get it back without a lot of money. So if you see a current or future use, you should not vacate it. So I don't want all of these being vacated. I mean, some of them need to be used and have been used, and don't get rid of those. Those are a public benefit. But if there's not one and you don't see a future of one, the state law is saying get rid of it.
So if we were to get rid of it, Brad, what kind of conservation restriction
You can say no trees can never be cut down. And
on
there is
that
a way-
20-foot strip? Or
whatever
could we
part of
say
it.
could we extend that?
That's up to the council to decide. Well, the applicant has to say yes, or they can just withdraw their application, I suppose. But all of it, or just the bluff zone, or that's up to you guys to figure out. But you easily have the power to enforce that. I mean, you can sue them, you can do administrative fines. There's things you can, just like people are putting, there's private sheds and docks and storage on all kinds of rights of way right now. That's against the law too, but you're letting it happen. On others, not this one, but, well, this has a private driveway on it. But the one that, on the same point, that's got a house on it.
Restrict anything on that whole thing.
So the fact that other people aren't following the laws is not a good reason to do anything. You have the ability to do a covenant.
I thought this committee that we established was going to give us some assistance on what ones could be vacated and what ones absolutely not. I thought they were going to inventory them and share that with the city council. I think I asked 2 months ago where the committee was on, but it must be the design review team or something that's taking care of it. We still don't have an inventory and which accesses that would be advisable to go ahead and vacate. I thought that committee, I thought that's what we established because we had a huge job in front of us in order to decide which ones we would vacate and which ones we wouldn't.
Marcia, I think by going through these 11 questions here, we haven't identified them personally, each one of them.
No, I'm talking about the inventory of the public accesses. I thought they were going to do that.
I can answer that.
Well, I haven't seen it. I asked for it 2 months ago and
The first step to address what would be an influx of vacation applications, since we changed the ordinance, we said, okay, the first thing we need to do is set up some sort of guidelines so you as a council can take these applicants and thoroughly look these over, look at the recommendations by the commissions, and come up with a valid answer. Meanwhile, we still have to do that because I drove all 64, or what I thought was all 64. I couldn't find half of them because we don't have anything on record of where they're at. I'm looking at a piece of land, and I see 2 houses, and I say...
No, but they're on a map. You know that there are 64 of them.
Right, but you look at a map and you look at the actual property, and it's...
Right.
You can't
So
tell.
do we
So
want to invest $2,000 each or something to survey?
we have to come up with a
That's question
plan.
that this council has never answered.
Well, it's 130 grand. I just.
But even the ones that we've had surveyed, I think past councils have made some motions to put signage up.
Right.
And they
you
just.
can find them.
We need to come up with, I mean, we have guidelines in place, and the next step is to survey the ones that aren't surveyed, identify the ones that we see that we should keep, there is public use, we've been notified that there's public use. You can use your own judgment when you're on top of a right-of-way. Would you walk down that? Would your grandson walk down that? I mean, you can have some common sense when you look at these right-of-ways. We identify those, and then we ask this council, do you want to pay to have signage up and let the public know that you can use them?
But
Or where they're at?
what I'm saying is that the city council should have some idea of where these are and how many
We have all that.
that are usable, so that we know how many, are, maybe there's 55 that aren't usable.
Well,
Do we
what-
give any away?
What is usable, though?
Well, okay, I don't have that definition, so,
I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to approve putting the restriction of the conservation on the 20-foot access and on Lot 15 from the top of bluff to the lake.
I'm not following. You're
Why
on
would
the
you go from the
access,
setback?
on the whole way of conservation?
So
How
this
can you
is
do
the
that?
20-foot. Put a conservation on that whole chunk, so they can't take any trees or do any improvement to it.
I still think we should trade 20 feet. Then we don't have to worry about it.
Go back to here.
Well, they're just to the top.
Setback, no
Or,
setback.
okay, the setback, yeah.
Just saying, that's how I feel.
I'll second the motion so we can continue discussion.
Okay, just to add that to the setback from the top of bluff. That just extends it back 30 feet.
Well, I think if you do that, aren't you getting back into the house? Oh, no, you're on the other lot.
Yeah,
Never
there's
mind.
no house there.
Never mind, you're not on that.
Mr. Andrews, do you understand that,
Yes.
that motion? I mean, we have to figure out, I agree that that's not, you can't use it. And what are we gonna do with them? We either throw it all out the window or we start moving on them.
The problem we got is that most of this peninsula is elevated. And for the reason we think this is unusable,
Oh, there'll be more.
every other one is gonna be the same way. So it may mean that we're gonna have to dig in our pockets and identify which ones can be used, and we're gonna have to spend some money on them so that the people in the middle can use them. And then that'll bring other issues because the neighbors aren't gonna like
That's why we needed a committee.
it.
Right now, we cannot put a stairs or any improvement to a lot.
Right.
We can't do that. Not to say that could change in 20 years. So if we can't use them today, they could maybe use them in 20 years if that law changed.
Does that restriction get attached to the, at the county to the?
It gets recorded, and like somebody else said, I mean, the county, or cities, not just the county, city staff should be fully aware of that. If anybody pulled a permit on one of these lots, that should be flagged that
Okay.
there's an easement there.
So if they're not following the conservation easement that we put on these at the end, who goes out and checks, and what kind of penalty do they get for mowing or clearing that conservation easement?
Well, first of all, you need to help direct staff. They can only do so many things, and like what your priority is for the summer kind of thing. But we have an administrative fine ordinance that is kind of new to City of Cross Lake, but long before that, or from the beginning, we've always had the power under common law to sue somebody saying, you're in violation of an ordinance, you need to stop that, and we can get lawyer fees, and it make it quite expensive for that person to ignore us.
So planning and zoning would go out and check those easements? And the city council should not have to direct them to do that. They should just go out if they find out that someone's not following
Well,
the
typically how it
conservation
works-
easement.
It works like a setback violation as well. Typically,
Yeah.
Peter doesn't have time to go look at every house all day long, but if there's a complaint and he's on notice, he
Exactly.
should know that, and I'm sure he does know, that we have tools in our toolbox to
But
make sure
that's
they
all-
comply.
That's all after the fact, though, Brad. They could go in and cut the whole hill, done, now we gotta see.
I can name off some very famous lawsuits of people that got in really big trouble doing that. It's not like we just were screwed, or we don't have any options then.
Kevin, come on up.
And I do applaud you for taking the time to work that out, but one thing I think everybody's missing on is, this is a bluff. This is covered by the state shoreland ordinance. The DNR and every enforcement official from the DNR would be on these people in a heartbeat if you're going into that bluff.
You know as well as I do that it happens.
But they're the one, yeah, I do, but I was gonna say, but that's also a recourse, even if you have the conservation easement in place, which we're working towards, we like that idea. You also have that, enforcement from the DNR, that this is a bluff, and that's a pretty strong statement. You'd be in huge violation of the state shoreland ordinance, especially in this one that's exposed like it is. Thank you.
What does your conservation easement mean?
It means they can't touch that. They can't do anything.
Can they develop on it?
No, they can't put a stairs on it. They can't.
Do we have to list all those things?
Well,
for
you can be
staff?
as specific as you want, but like the one I had mentioned before, ones we've seen in the past, where you can't clear or cut any trees or shrubs in that area. But if you want to define it better or different or more aggressively than that, but the idea is it's a no-touch zone. It's not a,
Can't do any improvements.
much more severe than that. Obviously, you can't build in a bluff, so that's implied. So development's not what we're talking about. We're saying you can't clear-cut stuff or limb up things because it's supposed to stay in its natural state. That's different than that's much more aggressive than saying no development. We clearly don't want to put a structure there because it's a cliff.
Right, but I thought he's talking about the whole 20-foot all the way to the bluff and
There's
down.
20 feet at the
He's not
bottom,
just zeroing
and
in on
that's
the bluff.
included.
He wants all
I don't
of it.
know, wasn't sure. I thought I heard,
That's what I heard.
but
him
that's
say.
up to you guys to figure out. But 30-foot setback, meaning about where,
20-foot and in front of lot 15, so it's 80 feet.
whatever, the,
30 feet back behind the bluff or where the building
all the way to the
setback
lake.
is.
So not
All the way to
the
lake.
other 100 feet or whatever it is, there's no restrictions on it.
Towards the
It's
road?
Towards the road.
Yeah, no.
You're only putting the restriction on the 20, 30 feet, whatever the setback is, non-lakeside, and then all the way to the lake is where that, and the whole 20-foot width is what you're saying.
80 feet wide on the lake.
80 feet wide.
Lot 15 and the access.
Oh, you're saying in addition to the, am I catching up to you? So you're not just talking about the actual Arlington Beach, you're saying you
No,
want to
I'm
add the
adding
covenant?
lot 15 also.
That can be done, since it's not part of your purview, you can do it, but they'd have to, you clearly have the right to do it in the Arlington Beach corridor without their permission or request. It's just, it's your, you can take away whatever bundle of rights you have and keep some because
We
it's
want to keep
public.
80 feet of the lake untouched.
I hear you,
Going
but
down
the 80 feet, now that I understand it's not vertical, it's horizontal along the lake, that's on private property. You can do it, but it requires their signed document from them. And if they say we're cool with that, then that'd be an additional document. It'd be,
If they accept that motion, then they're cool with it.
there would be two things. It'd be recording a vacation that has the conservation easement language in there, and it'd be an additional deed restriction that the Rokas would sign about their own land, about whatever part of Lot 15 you want to encumber. And you can do it as long as they say yes, because they got to sign
Do
it.
you understand the description now?
Now, I didn't understand it before, but you're saying not just the bluff and the,
You're going to be looking over the paperwork when they fill out.
you're saying not just the
He's
bluff,
trying to
or
do-
the
he's trying to do
Arlington Beach
private
corridor,
property.
you're saying that plus another 80 feet of Lot 15?
No, another 60 feet. There's
Okay,
60-foot
so
lot.
80 feet total, 20 feet public land, 60 feet private.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? Is that,
Let me make sure I understand, if I can.
Here.
So if I understand this correctly, you're suggesting that the 20-foot easement, all the way up the bluff, completely untouched?
true?
absolutely agree, concur with that.
Including 30 feet on top of it.
And then 30 feet, yep, so that makes all the sense in the world to me, crystal clear. It does seem like an overstep for you to then say, oh yeah, and oh, by the way, the additional 60 feet of lake shore that you own, that you paid for, yeah, we're telling you you can't do anything on that. That
Sounds like
seems like
he's-
an overstep to me, unless I'm misinterpreting
Well,
it.
that's what he's asking for. You
No,
can't build
that's what
on it
I'm asking
anyway,
for.
But he's saying, not just, there are rules already about clearing out things. So like Kevin was saying, much of what he's asking for is already in the law. You might want to talk to him quick before you finish the discussion. So I don't believe that really, what this tool would be is, in my 2 cents of what you're asking for. One, it requires his consent because it is his land, but much of what he's asking for is already state law, but we're not the state. So instead of just trusting the DNR, other state authorities would enforce something. If you try to clear cut that bluff, they might get after you as well, but the city could have their own independent action because you have a contract with the city now.
Okay, so
That's what
that
they're
is
asking
making,
for.
yeah, so that is clear to me, and if the ask is, you can't clear cut the bluff that you own,
That's what he's asking for. Not all of it, but the first 60 feet, the 60 feet adjacent to the Arlington Beach. So I don't know where your stairs are to get down, and if there's a room.
there's no, so that's kind of my
I'm
question.
talking the future though, not now.
Yeah, so
But that's the
just,
surveyor's job to think that through with you and decide if that's doable. Because you still would have, how wide is lot 15? Oh, it's the whole, okay, so there would
It's
be
the
no.
whole lot.
There would be no way to have a path down then, is,
right, so I'm asking myself, what if I,
did you understand that when you said that? Did you know what we're talking about?
Oh,
Usually
he's
each
not
lot-
agreeing with it, I
No, I'm
understand
not,
that.
I'm not
well,
even
I'm
asking
just
about their
getting
permission.
clarification here.
So it's the whole lot width, which means typically you have the right to a certain path to get down to the water for riparian access.
I'm assuming that is going to turn into one lot, one 140-foot lot. So you're going to acquire this 20 feet, and then you're going to split the lot in half?
No, I think your assumption is correct.
Okay.
That's what we're discussing, yes.
And you've got 60 feet in front of your building
In
that
front of my
you can
existing cabin,
improve
that's
with your
correct.
access to it. So what I'm saying is I'll make a motion to approve this if you leave the other 80 feet and don't touch it.
Right, and that's what I'm just getting clarity on.
You got the stairs that are on lot one.
You've already
lot
got your
5.
access, you got everything you need going down
That's all you're
there.
ever gonna have.
This is the conservation,
You can't do anything.
Yeah, but the
protecting the lake and,
Yeah.
because we have horror stories of people
Yeah, I
screwing around in
understand,
the
and with
bluff.
all due respect, you can't make us, I know you see this and people do this, but I'm a responsible citizen of Trout Lake. I am not going to break any
I didn't
covenants
say
that
you were
I
going to
know,
do it,
but
I just said we've had horror
It's
stories.
not gonna happen.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
not going to
person that
happen
buys it
under
after.
your ownership, but your
That's true.
ownership will change.
And I
This
do-
will not. This will go with the property as long as time.
I support the covenant strongly, and I think that's an eloquent compromise. I'm just trying to get my head around, what if my cliff climber is old? I mean, I can't even get someone to come out and repair it if it breaks. What if I need a new cliff climber with this, which is just to go down, right? I'm not talking boathouses.
Put it
I'm not
right where the
talking
old one
anything.
is.
I understand, but that's what I'm just trying to get my head around. What restrictions would there be?
And I believe, Pete, maybe you could help us out with this. I believe if he takes this and joins it all into one lot, which is kind of where you're thinking right now, he only gets one access down through the bluff.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
Really
not, it's
not
not a taking
doing-
for him. Now, if he were to take the 20 feet and attach it to lot 15, make an 80-foot lot, then he would be able to do his access down there. However, all the city standards, all the bluff rules, all the setback rules on that entire 80 feet are augmented to enhance the shoreland ordinance.
Well, I would like to see this be one parcel.
Well, I think that maybe you need to decide if you want to do that. This is just thrown at you. I'm thinking that we shouldn't make a decision. We should let you think about it, whether you want to do that, or if you want to trade, make some decisions, and then the city council can put it on the agenda.
I'd rather see you give that other 20 feet up.
Well, to Marcia's point, though, I think what we don't have, we've had discussion, we've not had a vote. So the way I would think it through would be, they're hearing you loud and clear, but we only know that that's a voice of one and a second, maybe for discussion, maybe because he wants the same thing. I think you should vote on that to confirm that's the only way the council would vacate it. As I said earlier, this would not become effective until, if it passed the way you want it. Maybe we'll find out that no, 3 of you say we only need the conservation on the 20 foot, not the whole 80.
Okay.
So after we know that, you make your vote. The vacation resolution would not be recorded until we also have the deed restriction from Rokas, which gives them time to have their own lawyers or surveyors talk and decide whether they want it. If they decide we're not going to do it, the vacation dies because it was only going to be, it was contingent on getting the deed restriction. So we don't need to table it. You can make your vote if that is your vote. You haven't decided that yet.
But he agreed that he wanted time to
Nope,
think
we've just
about it.
discussed that Mr. Rocker would like to move forward as this being one lot, 140 feet, as Mr. as the
Can you
mayor-
put that on the documents of the motion too, that it's to be one lot?
Right, and then as Mr. Pearson said, as this gets reviewed and everything,
I don't think we can say it's one lot, but in essence, we have if they can only have one access, because we're saying you can't even put a stairs down on lot 15, you're forcing their hand.
Okay.
I mean, but a lot combination is not part of a vacation action. I think they're
Okay,
just.
does everybody here understand that motion? John?
I'd like to hear it again.
Okay, the motion is to approve the vacation with the restriction being the 20-foot vacation that we're approving and the 60 feet of lot 15 from the building setback line on the top of the bluff to the lake shore. There's a conservation, what do you call it?
A no clear zone and no pass. I think we should add that to make it
There's
clear.
a no-nothing zone.
It's no clearing and no pass down to the lake in the entire 80-foot corridor, which I think you all are hearing, that's more aggressive than a typical conservation bid on vacation, but that's okay if both parties agree to it. So you could say, that's the only way I would vote yes, or you could say, no, I think that's overstepping, we only need it on the 20 feet. The council needs, as a group, needs to vote on one of those.
John, do you understand it now? Yes. Okay. Aaron? Marcia, you good with it? We're going to vote. Do you understand the motion?
Yeah, I understand the motion.
Okay,
I
let's
still
vote then. We got a
want to
motion and a
trade.
second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So it's a 3-2. So that's done?
Well, it passed first, but it's not done because even though they're thinking they might do it, until it gets put on paper and their lawyers and surveyors have a chance to look at it, again, this is all not going to get recorded. Even though the council's acted, it has no legal effect until it's recorded, and we're not going to record it unless we also have the deed restriction. So we'll see what happens in the future, but the Rokas can work with city staff in the future and their own lawyers to figure it out.
Okay. So that's all of D, huh? That's all you had? Next is the mayor and council members' report. I got to catch up on my paperwork here. E1 is a resolution accepting donations. We had a donation from the PAL Foundation for $3,871.80. Intended purpose, the new playground. Another donation from the PAL Foundation for $988 for the new playground. And Dennis Kurowski, $40 for a cart tour donation. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. What is this one here? An ordinance amending Chapter 2 related to the administration, Article 6, boards and commissions for the city of Cross Lake, Rowan County?
We already passed that.
What's it in here for?
It needs to be published, so I just need approval to publish this
Okay.
form in the paper.
I'll make a motion that you can publish the ordinance in the paper.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. E4, E3. Okay, TJ, let's talk about that, huh?
Yeah, I can take this one on. Let me just get switched over here. So it was brought to my attention that the Crow Wing County tax forfeited land section, they have a parcel of land, it's kind of hard to see, 37.3 acres that will be up for auction on July 29th. Right now, the starting bid is $57,700. In some of our conversations with the land committee, we talked about available land throughout Cross Lake and how, I think to Dave's point, when we talked about the right-of-ways, land isn't growing, and we have to really take a look at all these available parcels in Cross Lake and be diligent in looking at them and seeing if it's wise for the city to purchase those. So if you see there, I circled the community center and our Nordic Ridge Trail, you'll see is kind of colored with those lines there. I can go to the next slide and kind of show you where that encompasses on other tax forfeited land. We have a use agreement through the county to use that tax forfeited land for our park purposes for the Nordic Ridge Trail. There are also, I believe, I can go to the next slide here, but there are two other, the circled in red there are two other tax forfeited parcels, 38.25 acres and 37.9 acres that is also tax forfeited that does not fall within our use agreement with our trails. So I just wanted to bring this to the council for some conversation. You know, I don't want to see this parcel go away in auction without having us take a peek at it for future city needs or purposes.
And what I would like the council to take a look at is there are 11 40s up there that are all county.
Well, I did actually.
Two red ones were counties.
I took another peek at that. See that dotted line? Everything north of that is 50 Lakes.
Right, but all the yellow are county tax forfeit.
Correct, and that does fall within our trail. You can kind of see those lines there.
What's that got to do with it?
Just we use that for ski trails and walking in the summer.
You're protecting that a little bit? There's 440 acres up there that if we were to acquire these over time, the city would have some room to grow. That one up there is kind of landlocked. It's $57,000. There's $24,000 for the timber stumpage on it. I think we could sell that for $90,000 any day we wanted to for somebody for hunting land or something.
The orange circled one?
Yeah, the orange one is the one
What
we're
are the
talking
red
about.
ones again?
The orange is what's currently going to be up for bid on the 27th, and the red ones are also tax forfeited, and I just put those in red because it falls on the outside of our trail. So we don't have any sort of use on it currently right now. It's just tax forfeited land. The ones in yellow are tax forfeited land as well, but that is where we do use it through use agreement with the county for skiing and hiking and so on and so forth.
Will the county sell us the tax forfeited in the yellow circles that we're using?
We could certainly ask them.
I think that would be a better deal than.
However, they do have an ATV trail that runs through the northern section, so that could be something where we have a use agreement with them. I don't know how that would work out, but.
How do we access that?
The trail?
The orange?
We don't know.
That's up in the air right now. I just wanted to bring this to the council because I don't have any idea what kind of use this would serve the city, but it's 38 acres close to our existing property that down the road we could use eventually someday. I don't know.
I think we should find out if the county will sell us the other tax forfeited.
What is the sale up, TJ?
The bidding starts
22nd or something of July?
29th of July, auction date at 10 a.m.
What are the conditions under which the county would give the city right of first refusal for a property that's forfeited?
Yep, that's the way it goes.
We do have the first right. I mean, if that's, but prior policy was, and I'm getting old, but back in the day, if the city wanted it and and was willing to put a deed restriction on it, saying it had to be for public purposes only, they'd give it to us for $1. I think those days are gone under current policy in Crow Wing County. They want they'll let you buy it outright without going through the auction process, but they're not going to. I assume you've asked. They're not going to give it to us. We got to buy it.
Why wouldn't the county have offered that to us?
Have they already, or did you have to ask?
I believe it's not adjacent to our existing property, so that's why we're not notified.
But I think they offered us Duck Lake that wasn't really adjacent to city property.
I don't know about
There was a
that.
couple other parcels last year.
I'm not fully familiar with all the process, but I thought, for sure, and from a private citizen standpoint, if you're adjacent, you get notified, but I thought it was in the city of Cross Lake anywhere.
That's what I thought too.
there
Cindy
should've-
is actually the one that found that.
Yeah. It used to be that they put us on notice, maybe I don't know the current policy, but that's what it used to be like. And we often would say we don't care,
Right.
but at least we knew about it. I don't know, we could ask that too and find out if there's a way to.
Or anything? That's just kind of odd that they wouldn't have.
Is that US 1 on the County Road 1?
No, it's 50 Lakes boundary.
So that's further north?
One is further up, yeah. About, yeah. So there is no really practical reason to buy that right now, other than if we don't, it's gone forever. If we buy it right now, we could kind of control whether
But
we
you don't
wanted it
even
in
know
the
if you
future or
get
not.
access. You don't even know if you can get access. I think those questions should be answered.
No, we don't.
Well,
No.
buy some land you can't get to.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Somebody's going to buy it, and it's going to be gone.
But I think it would be nice to know how we get to it, to even look at it, to make sure it's not a swamp.
Well, it's 37 acres on a 40-acre chunk, so there's 13 acres of wet ground there. And
We still should, can't you call the county and ask them where the access is? I mean, we really shouldn't be buying property we don't even know if we have access to it.
Well,
there could be off of Old County Road 1 or something up there. I mean, it's
here's,
close to that.
this is Buckskin. This is Buckskin here on the left. I don't know if you can see my cursor here. This is tax forfeited land all the way up through here that leads to this tax forfeited land as well. This I cannot account for, this one that's for sale right now. I can't see my cursor. That guy there, but these two, and I'm not saying in 50 years, 100 years, the city wouldn't be doing something to those two parcels, but there is access off of Buckskin through this other tax forfeited land to those two adjacent properties.
Why are they red?
Those are red just because they fall outside of our parcels that we
They're not-
currently use.
they're
They're
not
not
part
currently
of it.
being used right now. They're just tax forfeited. The ones in yellow are tax forfeited, but we use those for park purposes.
So it's just how far ahead in the crystal ball do we want to look?
And that's what we talked about in this land committee. You know, we don't want to think about the next 20 years. We want to think about the next 50 to 100 years, because once the land's gone, it's gone, unless we want to penny up and buy big chunks of expensive
Why would we
land.
be looking at the ones that are circled in yellow?
We don't have to.
Well, we have a use agreement through the county right now to use that for park purposes.
They're free.
We're just using them right now. It's tax forfeited.
Yeah.
But
if
we groom those trails in the winter, we can hike them in the summer.
Close, a lot closer to our city.
It is, yeah.
But we don't have to pay.
That's how much you want to
We
secure.
don't have to pay for those. We have a
What
use
if all of a sudden
agreement.
they decide that we are?
Well, then we'd have to decide at that time, but
Some
it's
council will
not,
have to deal with it.
that one, the orange one is the one that is for sale now, that is going to be gone on the 20, whatever of July.
See, that tax forfeited property there, that's a whole different story than what we bought out there that was abutting our property by the joint maintenance facility. That made sense. We don't even know if we have access to that. So I want the question answered. Can we get to it? I mean, what's the point? Someday we might be able to sell it. I don't know.
58,000?
I wanted to bring this to the council for the purpose of conversation. I would really wouldn't make a recommendation to anything because I don't have anything planned for a park purpose. I don't know if planning and zoning or, the council sometime in 50 years wants to sell that off or harvest the lumber, but before this land leaves us, in 38 acres and 38 acres, I would want the council to know that, it's a possibility that we can no longer buy it for any purpose, so.
I asked TJ to bring it here, so it's not his doing, it's mine.
Well, I think if you're serious about it, I think we should find out if there's access to it, and then you can Mr. Mayor, you can call a
Well,
special
we could do that.
meeting.
We could have a special meeting and look at it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have
okay.
the
All right,
questions
well,
answered. I'm not buying something I can't get to, or whatever.
I'm not so concerned about the one circled in orange because it is, the adjacent
removed.
properties are privately owned, so that would be pretty hard sell. The red ones and the yellow ones, I just wanted to have a conversation about it. We can have further discussions later on and get some more answers, but I just wanted to bring it to the council and shed some light on this because the whole goal of that land committee meeting is to look at all properties that are available and what we can do to preserve them if we see fit for the city purposes.
There could be a Tom Thumb on that one day.
Pot of gold in there.
Okay, TJ, look into it. Get back to us. Number 4 is a petition from property owners against road assessments. Is anybody here to talk to this, or do we just talk about it?
I received this in my email at like 4:40 this evening. And I thought I better just put it in there so that you know
So Steve
what the feel
Johnston-
is of these people. 87 people have signed it so far.
Right. So we probably don't have to spend a lot of time on that tonight, but it's coming. Yeah. Okay. And then last thing for the mayors that I have is I just want to make an apology to Scott Seamers. Last meeting, we kind of told Scott that he owed us another connection fee for the sewer. And after staff looked into it a little deeper, there was an agreement when he hooked up to the sewer that he, if his use didn't change, he wouldn't be charged an extra connection charge. So Scott's not here, but I just want to, you can put that in the paper, Paul or Nancy. Hopefully Scott will be okay with it. That's it. That's all I have. Mike?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item I have is resolution for the appointment of election judges to serve for the primary election to be held on August 9th, 2022. And if there's any questions, Shar is here to answer those.
When is the date for registering if you're going to run for one of the offices? Shar, what is that date?
August 2nd, and it ends August 16th.
Okay, so the 16th is the deadline.
I move that we authorize her to hire election judges.
I'll second that approval of the election judges.
Okay, any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the second item I have is just for your information only. This is from the state demographer, and it's just updating us what our population estimate is and what our total number of households are. For April 1st, 2021, the population estimate is 2,466, and the households are at 1,205. If there's any questions on that, there's contact information on the bottom of that.
So I have a question. I was told that if you get 2,500, 2,600 residents, that you should have a building or building inspector. Do you know anything about that, Brad?
I do know that trigger doesn't come to my mind right now, but there are definitely triggers, like for 10,000, when Baxter hit 10,000, all of a sudden we had all these new rules and expenses for stormwater management because you hit a population point.
Okay.
And I remember another one earlier back years ago when we hit 5, or not that, we already had building inspectors, so it might be true, but it didn't matter to me.
All right.
But it wouldn't shock me. I know there's at certain trigger points, there's more rules that apply to you.
Okay, so again, that's for your information only, just an update on that. Item 3 is, we've been talking about, 3 different projects, one of which was mentioned, assessments, in the mayor's report under item 4. So what you have before you is, we're still trying to get nailed down what we're going to assess, the amounts. We still need to have an assessment hearing, go through that process. That takes time. But I did want to get something in front of you to show you what a minimum would look like. In this model, we're assessing the amounts that we were approved to assess at the maximum. Now that can change, but I wanted to show you worst case. In this case, for the road improvement projects, the sewer extension and the sewer clarifiers, we're still going to do the clarifiers this winter. We're looking at a net effective interest rate of 3.719%. Now remember, a couple of years ago, that was very low. Interest rates have gone up significantly since that. So this is for your information. Right now, on this level of bonding, the way this is set up, we assumed there'd be a 20% minimum for an assessment bond. We've amortized that out over an appropriate period, and you'd be looking at an annual levy beginning in 2023 for the first dollars received in 2023, for about $255,000 is what the levy would start at.
For how many years, Mike?
This would go, they're staggered. This would go from 2023 to 2020 to 2043. So we split it. We went longer on the sewer and shorter on the improvement portions.
I have some questions on the bond issuance. You have 800,000 on the road. I know that's the maximum, and we approved the maximum, whatever, but the contract was only 680,000. Why would we bond for 800,000?
Well, we wouldn't. This is an example to get it in front of you for consideration. And remember, we did road improvements too. We did the seal coat project. Our total roads were about $706,000, and we include engineering and all the costs we've already incurred. So again, what I wanted to get in front of you was, here's the worst case, and that'll be changed once we know what the assessments are and where we're coming out with these. Now, we're coming towards the end of the road projects. We've got a few things to change, some modifications we talked about tonight. We can include those costs in here. So again, what I did was I said, worst case, this is what it would look like. We can start coming down from here. At a minimum, I would encourage council to direct us to get an assessment hearing established, get it on the calendar, and get that part taken care of. Because remember, we were looking at an assessment level of about $4,000 a lot, correct, Phil? So we need to know that sooner rather than later, because we just saw what the Fed did with interest rates. I don't expect them to go down in the next cycle. I expect them to go up again.
So at the last meeting, you should maybe, didn't we approve assessing for the road project?
You said you were going to assess.
Okay.
You didn't, that's all that was done.
Okay.
That was it.
Then the other thing is that we had 357,000 in assigned balance for roads. Is that where the other road improvements were coming from? And we also, and the sewer, we had that 564,000, the ARP and the, what do you call it, the Bowser grant?
Correct. Remember, the estimated cost of the road projects were $2.5 million. And we were
For the road
debating-
projects?
You're talking sewer, I'm talking sewer.
Yeah.
So the sewer project was estimated at $2.5 million, and the way that we got to the $2.1 million bond is we will have bond issuance costs with that. We'll also are debating whether or not to carry the $500,000 we'll get reimbursed from the county in 2024.
So on the bond schedule, couldn't you in 2024 bump that payment up to include that 300 and some thousand, or whatever, was it 400,000? The county's portion. Can't you bump it up that year? to
Again,
pay
the
it
purpose
back?
of this was to get the maximum amount in front of you to start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Those are all things
Well,
that can be
that's why I'm
considered.
asking the questions, so that,
Yep, and I
Yeah.
explained that. But we still need to remember, we still need to know what the assessment piece says.
yes.
Because we need to
But,
figure out
Yeah,
what to
then
do with this.
the $128,000 that we just got for the ARP, the payment in June, is that like half the payment we're going to get? Or are we going to get another $128,000 in December?
No, that's the
This
final
is it.
payment.
The $128,000 we just got,
That's correct.
that's it. That's the end of it. And we can use that for sewer.
Correct.
So we could add that to the $564,000 and reduce our bond issuance.
Again, the debate was over, do we want to carry the $500,000 reimbursement from the county or not? This assumes we are not funding that, but we're bonding for it. And once that decision is made, along with the assessments, we would adjust this schedule based on when we anticipate those dollars to hit.
So what's our choice on that, Mike? Could we take it out of the general fund and pay it and then just put it back in the general fund in '24 when they reimburse us?
You could do that, or you could use it to reduce the level of tax levy in 2024 and 2025. But the key point I'm trying to get across, and I'm going to say it again,
The worst case.
is this is the worst case scenario based on rates at the time this was done. And the piece we still need to know is what are you going to do with assessments?
Mike, I have another question.
Sure.
That I'm going to add on here, is those streets coming through Old Log Landing that are being used here, they're being destroyed. Phil, can we still do a grind off and overlay to fix those streets? And roughly what would those costs be? And should those costs be tacked on here, i.e. as an add-on to the 66 project?
We have a very preliminary number that Phil's group has put together. It does not include the entire bypass, but it's basically an overlay in the amount of roughly $150,000, somewhere around there.
Do you think you really will get away with that? That amount will do it?
You know, now we haven't identified that as part of the project, you know, and those are all good questions.
Right, so Mike asked for, anticipated this discussion, he asked for the local road detour, how would you go about addressing that? And we've identified that Daggett Bay and Brook would not get any improvement, they're fairly new. That when you took the corner onto Kimball, up to Lumberjack, back down Miller, that those areas would be a combination of the areas that are really beat up would be a reclaim project where you chew them up, put the blacktop down, and the remainder would be an overlay. They're based on the bid prices we got this year.
But if we attach it to the cost of the 66 project.
So you're saying, do you think we could add that as a change order to either Anderson Brothers or Casper?
Yes.
And get the work done? We'd have to ask them.
As
If
far
they
as
want-
scheduling this year to get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do it, will they want to honor the pricing? I don't know. They're probably going to give us another price because I think since we took bids in January, February versus now, prices have went up.
But that's why I'm wondering if 150,000 is going to cover that.
And not to open up a can of worms, but do you want to put, are there any things you want to change? Did you talk to the residents or anything that you want to change in there? Just put it back the way it is?
I want the road fixed.
Well,
I don't know how else to tell. You'd have to talk to the individual residents.
Right, I'm just saying, I know what you want
And I
to
don't
do.
live on that stretch, so I can't,
Yeah.
I shouldn't speak
But-
for them.
We
I'd
threw a
pull it
number
up to
together,
next
so Mike-
year's. I'd look at it for next year's.
Yeah.
Well,
That's kind of
not
what
gonna
we-
For sure.
work- That's not going to work through a winter.
Well,
That road's going to be completely, totally destroyed, and that's going to be a rebuild if you try to do that.
if the prices aren't the same and it's over 100,000, aren't you going to have to bid it again?
You know, your threshold's 175 now.
Okay, I'm behind the time. Okay.
You're right, it used to be though. So you could look at a change order, you could ask for a change order, you could ask to get quote.
Could you do that and see what we can get for this year so that we don't have to have all these people driving on junk, really on junk, is what's left of it.
We can ask.
Yeah,
That's
why
what
don't
I'm
you,
asking.
why don't you look into it and
Yeah.
come back?
Thank you, Phil.
So have we paid any money on the clarifier project yet?
Very little.
So that's next winter?
Winter, yeah, we can't take them down right now to do it. We've got some of the parts, some of them showed up, I think you got a truckload of parts last week.
So can we bump that out a year? Can we combine it with any roads that are gonna be done next year?
No, they're under a different statute.
Are you talking about paying for the clarifier?
Yeah, we haven't spent any money on it.
No, but we
won't
got
till
the
probably
five-
next year.
We got the 564,000 that's dedicated toward.
No, it's
towards it.
not. That's set aside for the road, for the sewer improvement project out on 66. And we talked about that several times.
Well,
The clarifiers
sewer.
are funded by bonds, or depending on the level of connection charges, because remember, connection charges are not project-specific. They're charges that are connected by the city to pay for the repairs and maintenance at the plant over time. As we get connection charges, it's to repair for pumps, clarifiers, but we don't know what that amount is yet. So you could potentially reduce the bond issue by the amount of connection charges you collect this year if we know what those are. And it's kind of the same dilemma we're having with the assessments. We need to decide what those are so we know what to bond for.
Okay, how much time do we have left? Because I know we're really short for setting what this bond is going to be, or are we doing that tonight?
We're not doing that tonight because we haven't had the assessment hearing yet.
So what are you looking for, Mike, to schedule an
Date.
assessment hearing?
A date.
Yeah.
Well, two things. We've got one of them answered, so Phil's going to get us a number on redoing part of the detour. And then, we could work with the clerk and with Phil to come to get an assessment hearing and get this thing done.
Yeah.
Just email us.
Do you want us to put some dates together and come
Yeah.
back to you with it? We can do that. Okay, can we move on to item 4? So, item 4, we're calling it the Cross Lake Pedestrian Intersection Improvement Project. And I've included a website for your reference, should you have any questions on what are the documents out there. And those include the parking and pedestrian route study, the stormwater quality improvements, Cross Lake Transportation Alternatives, the grant application, and the Cross Lake Federal Lands Access Program grant application. So what Tim Bray at the county has asked me to do is to, first off, share this information with you and to let you know that because this is a county-administered project, the county is in charge of the engineering side of it. Remember, we had 2 separate projects, and we were able to combine the grants into one. The county is the project administrator, or the sponsor, if you will. And remember, this project is, in its entirety, is in the county's right-of-way. So they're really holding the cards on this one. So what they've done is last Friday, I believe, they issued, either late Thursday or Friday, they issued a request for proposals for project planning, coordination, agency and stakeholder engagement, preliminary design, final design, NEPA environmental documentation, and other technical services for this very project. The timeline for this is the proposals were released on July 8th. Their proposals are due back to the county on July 29th. August 5th of 2022 is set up for potential respondent interviews. And that's where I need your help, where the county's asked for our help. Tim has asked me to ask this board to appoint 2 people from the city to help them review the applicants that are submitted so they can select an engineer for the project to do just those deliverables. So that's really up to this board. You can appoint.
County is asking for 2 citizens to be on the board.
No,
to
they're
hire,
asking for 2 members of the city, not citizens.
whether council or staff or whoever.
Council or staff, 2 members, to participate in the selection of an engineer for putting these plans together.
I think Pat might be good to be one of them for a couple of reasons. He's worked with them before. Number two, it'll give him a chance to meet some of these people and get to know who they are. So I'd like to see Pat as one of them.
Pete, is this something you'd be interested in? Just asking.
That head come flying up like that.
He said yes, so
Okay,
there
done.
you go, John.
All right.
Could you repeat that request, Pete?
You know, I think Pete pretty much says it all with that reaction. We've all been here a long time. So you can appoint the two new guys, or you can appoint a staff and a council member. In any case, if any of you'd like to see, and I know Marcia will ask for this, is I've got a complete copy of the RFP. It's very thorough. It's about 20 pages long. And any questions, I would refer them to Tim Bray. But there's quite a bit of information in here. It talks about the deliverables. Every task is clearly identified. It talks about vehicle and pedestrian forecasting and analysis, project management, administration, coordination, coordination meetings, all the way down to property owner meetings, utility coordination, pre-construction, project mailings. There'll be a website set up.
Is it all based on a roundabout?
No, it's based on the, I'll get the name wrong if I don't read it. It's all based on the Cross Lake Pedestrian Intersection Improvement Project. In the details of this document, they talk about a traffic control device for the intersection. They also talk about a roundabout. They list a number of things that should be considered. They don't say, design this. They say, consider these options. And one of them is a roundabout, one of them is a traffic control device, whether it's a stoplight, a stop sign, or whatever.
Okay.
So they're looking for a analysis of that and a recommendation and a deliverable. They've sent it out. I'm not sure who they've sent this out to. I would assume they sent it out to Phil's firm, Widseth. They probably went SCH, and I think the only one that comes to mind would be WSB. I'm not sure who we sent it out to, but they usually send it out to 4 or 5 different firms there do work with. So we'll see. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do the Pat and Pete show, or? Or Dave, did you want to be part of that?
I would do it too, whatever.
Do you want to take a council and staff and, let Pete take care of bluffs? I would suggest, given the discussion here, either the mayor and Patrick or the
Dave
Darren
and
and
Pat show?
myself.
Can you handle it, do you think, Pat?
I'll make that motion. Dave Nevin and
Second.
Okay, motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, while we were
Motion
chatting here,
carries.
TJ's going to put this information on our website. So when people go out there, they can click on this, it'll take them out to the county's website. And everything you want to know about the project is out there. There'll be one more document. It's the, I can't think of the name of it, but it talks about the environment out there that they just put out there when I looked this morning. So there's actually another document out there than what I have listed, so. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Commission, Public Works, Pat, let's see what you got. It's your first time.
Do you need Pete to bail you out?
You're on.
All right. Recommendations regarding connection fees. Public Works Commission met on the 5th, 2022, and reviewed staff's questioning regarding the connection fees for Doris Fraser, Eva Kreitz, Clow, and the Log Church. It was the senses of the commission
that the connection fees be based on the property is zoned, not how it's used. The following recommendations were made. Doris Fraser be charged for commercial connection fee, $9,200. The Eva Creets Clow be charged commercial fee of $9,200. The Log Church be charged 2 commercial connection fees of $18,400.
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, all in favor.
Are you going to take the next one?
Please do if you would.
Come on, don't let them off that easy.
So before you have change order number 1 for the SAW 66 sanitary sewer extension. This is for the local detour that we put on at the direction of the city council. So that total amount is $8,205. And if you look at the supporting information, it breaks it down into the various pieces. Additional advanced warning sign, additional business directional signs, the labor that the contractor gets to change those, the progress of the project. They added it, we were requested to get another detour advanced warning sign, and then we also added some more businesses and moved a sign at the request of a property owner who indicated that their son was having issues with the location of the sign. So we're looking for approval of that change order. It would add to the cost of the project, $8,205.
I move that we accept this change order.
I'll second that.
No, that's the same one we've talked about 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, we just finally got all of the numbers from the contractor. We put it
Okay.
into a,
Any other questions on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries.
so then we have contractor pay application number 2 for the same project. This is for work completed through June 25th. The contractor had a total value of work of $436,715.10. By our contract, we retain 5%. We will retain 5% until the city is ready to wrap the project up in final. We've made a previous payment, so this payment amount that we're recommending is $260,818.62.
I'll make a motion to approve the pay application number 2 to Anderson Brothers in the amount of $286,444.
Should be Casper Construction.
Is it Casper?
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong one then.
I second it.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, a little discussion on that. How many more payments are there going to be? 2 more or 1 more?
I think, looking at when they started the project on May 16th by contract, assuming no rain days or no delays created by any city direction, which I don't see any, they would run into 65 days on August 16th for substantial completion. So I would see a payment in August, September, probably October 1, we wrap up final.
And do they pay Anderson Brothers for the blacktopping, or is
They
that
pay-
part of their
yep,
contract?
They have to pay all of their subcontractors.
Okay.
So we pay Casper only, we hold 5%. How they collect theirs might be they pay most of their sub, but hold off some, I don't know.
Okay, any other questions on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All in favor.
And then finally, pay application number 2 for the 2022 road improvement project to Anderson Brothers. This reflects work through June 25th. They had completed $602,261.76 worth of work. Again, we retain 5% through the duration of the project. We've made previous payments, so we're recommending a payment of $286,444.53 to Anderson Brothers. I guess I would just follow up based on your previous question. They're at punch list stage. We have a few issues with how the turf is coming up, like on Wildwind Ranch Drive. The
I mean, not
weeds
coming-
the weeds are prolific and the grass is not, so they'll be working on that. A small drainage issue where the water's not quite getting to the culvert, which I think they'll do some grading on that. And then obviously with Rushmore, we're gonna address the water down at the end of the road. So I see that being finalized out, should be able to be, if the turf establishes, I guess I should say that, we do not pay the contractor for complete turf establishment until 70% of the grass is growing. So I see that payment for the Anderson Brothers could wrap up in August, potentially September 1st.
Okay, I'm going to try again. I'll make a motion to pay Anderson Brothers, pay application number 2 in the amount of $286,444.53.
Second.
Any questions on it? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Thanks, Phil. Mr. Lowmiller.
Good evening, everybody. Back on May 30th, during the storm we had on Memorial Day, we lost our helipad sock cone for wind direction for the helicopter pilots. It used to be on top of the roof on a tripod. It got blown over and the tripod actually got ruined. We did put in for insurance, let them know that happened.
Yeah, we filed a claim for that. The problem is the cone we had on the roof appears to be fairly unique and no longer available. So we're
Correct.
trying to negotiate with the insurance company what is the value for that. There'll be something there, we're just not sure how much it's going to be. So what Chip is asking to do, we're not going to put it back up on the roof.
No, so, yeah, we have a plan.
We have a plan.
There's a light near the helipad on the south side of the parking lot that we're gonna move to the south entrance light that got damaged by the contractor to help them save money.
Yep.
So we're gonna move that over there, and then we're gonna put this proposed new windsock where that light used to be, because there's a 110 volt there.
Yep.
How tall a pole do you have to put in
It's
for?
117 inches.
From the ground?
Yep.
And that shows them well enough where the wind is.
Yep, they want to see the ground wind. They know what it is when they're flying.
Okay.
But they want to know what the ground is. And it's not solar. This is 110. The solar one's about $8,000.
Yeah.
So the proposal that you have in front of you is $2,867.54. No, it's not in my budget. I don't know how much money we're getting from insurance.
Well,
However, this is good news, Marcia. You're going to like what I'm going to say here. So
Okay.
in my capital for personal protective gear, I have $11,200 in there. I got a grant. I have 2 new firefighters this year that I got a grant to get their PPE for free. So I'm not going to be buying any PPE this year. So there's $11,200 for you. Well, I'm going to take that back. I got to buy them wildland gear, so that's $800.
I'm going to surprise you, I wasn't even going to ask.
Huh?
I'm going to surprise you, I wasn't even going to ask.
We'll wait till budget time.
Thank you
I'll
for
ask.
So you don't
sharing
have a sock there at
information.
all now, or you got something temped
We don't have a
up?
sock right now, so it's about a 4-week wait time for this delivery.
But it has been submitted to the insurance company, and we
Yes.
should get a reimbursement.
Yeah, we just don't,
We don't know how much it's gonna
we're
be.
negotiating on how much was the one that got broken in the roof repair, because we have holes
Yeah,
to
we have-
fix in the roof.
We're gonna
but-
fix those Wednesday night.
Move we approve the expenditure of $2,867.54
I'll
approximately.
second that.
Oh, sorry.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, public forum. Action may or may not be taken on the issue raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issue will be placed on the agenda of the next regular council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address.
Mark
Mr.
Lindner, Pine Lure Drive. TJ, can you put up that thing that showed the land with the circles on it real quick? I saw that and it reminded me of something, Dave, you asked me about Pine Lure and going public, or being a city road. When I bought my land in the 90s, I was told by the owner of the road that the road at that time was private because the city wanted it to be city road, and he refused to let them have it. If you look down in the lower corner, you'll see where Wilderness Trail goes, and as it circles back, you see at the very lower right, right there. Okay? You also see the point to the right of that across
Yep.
the river. That's
Yep.
Pine Lure, right? That's an open lot there. I thought the guy was crazy, but he told me he wouldn't let the city have the road because he said they wanted to put a bridge across that, and he would never allow that because of all the traffic that would go across Pine Lure. I thought he was nuts until I got involved with the city and involved with some of the issues, and I read a comp plan from 2008. It was still in the 2008 comp plan. The city wanted to put a bridge across that. So that is why we're...
Maybe we should look at that.
Yeah, that is why we are a private road.
2-lane or 4-lane?
That is why, and so I thought the guy was nuts. It was in the 2008 comp plan.
We don't do well on bridges, I can tell you that.
Well, you asked me the question why it was a private, whatever. I thought the guy was nuts until I got involved with the city. And
You're probably happy that there's not a bridge across there.
yes, I am.
Oh, Cindy.
Hi, good evening.
I
will
was
make this
hoping we'd hear from you.
Very short and sweet. I want to thank Shar. I talked to her last week. I've been paying very good attention to the updates on the website about the current road construction situation. I want to keep the business community informed on the process of that. So I was thankful that Shar kind of gave me an overview of, it wasn't on the website over the 4th of July holiday, so the updates weren't on there. I missed them. But Shar shared with me that phase 1 is potentially going to be done the 3rd week in July. And then the whole entire phase 2 should still be completed by the end of August. They're going to stand by their proposal. Is that still the case?
I think Phil just stated by the 16th of August.
Okay, so.
Let's let him clarify that.
Because we're not slapping shovels here. Our contract says they have 65 days to do the job.
Okay.
And then at that point, they start to incur a daily penalty. So
So their incentive is to get done by the
Their incentive is to
16th.
get done, and you've been at those meetings, and we continue to say the same thing. Looks like you're behind. Get more people here. Looks like you're behind. Get more people here. They're staring it in the face. They know August 16th or 65 days is here.
So the first portion was delayed. I'm thankful that it was, because it's going to lessen the second portion.
Right.
Oh,
So
go
my
ahead.
ask is, the updates that are on the website are what they did today, but is there any way you can say, we're still on task? We're still on task to finish on the 16th, or, okay, now we're gonna not be done? No, there's not?
We're having a meeting again tomorrow morning.
Okay.
We have them weekly.
I think the weekly meetings, do the minutes get up there? Charlotte, we send you the weekly construction.
We get a lot of deer in the headlight looks
It's just a
at
one
those
daily
meetings.
update thing.
So,
It's just important to keep the public informed.
Yeah.
I shared that message with the business community, the resorts. It's very important to them to let their guests know, the businesses need to know, need to help the people understand how they're gonna get around. So I appreciate the updates. So if you can just keep me posted.
yeah, we do ask that question every week. I did talk to Nate this morning, and the city owns that corner lot north of the intersection, right? Where the Cross Lake City Hall sign is. And I suggested to them to cut a little road through the corner of that so they could do a 2 or 3 extension on the detour and get that intersection done there. And we'll talk again in the morning about that, but that could save a few days of stopping the road, so.
Mobile homes?
Well, that's the next lot, but it's an empty lot toward it.
So then, if they can do phase 2 in 2 weeks, that's awesome. Because the next concern is gonna be West Shore Drive. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna go around to Ideal or up to 50 Lakes. They're gonna go right through West Shore Drive. So I don't know if you guys wanna be proactive about that, or I know how you put the stop signs behind Log Landing being reactive to the situation. I don't know if there's any proactive measures you wanna take on West Shore Drive, but you know it's coming. So, let's
it's just, that's just gonna happen.
Hopefully, it's going to be very short.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
Which leads me to the next phase of the next construction. Now in 2024, we're gonna look at that whole intersection on County Road 3 and all that being torn up and reconstructed. So I just urge you and, you know, when you're working with the county and the engineers to be very thoughtful about how we're gonna manage that. This one is just, the timing is crazy. I mean, we're busy in the summer, busy.
Yep.
So I just urge you to really pay attention to that timeline. And then I know that they promised some community meetings, and I don't know if that's in that RFP or I understand the engineers are gonna organize all that. And then I've been seeing other communities are doing test options. They're adding pylons or they're painting white lights, you know, with stripes where bump outs should be. I mean, would it even be an option to throw up some stop signs at that intersection and see if a four-way intersection would work in advance of an engineering or in coordination with the engineers? Or, I mean, you guys are gonna be on the project team.
Well, we can't, the county could.
Yeah. But you guys are gonna be on that project team, so I would suggest that maybe that's an option, and we could do it yet this year.
Do you know when
the
that
traffic
is going to
still here.
start, that project team that she's talking about?
You won't be on the project team.
Okay, but
The purpose of tonight's meeting was to
Election team.
be on the selection team to select the engineer for the project.
Yeah, and that
Whoever's
is
on the project
the
team.
middle of August or something, Mike, or do you have a timeline at all on that?
I do.
Maybe that should be a question to the county board. Because we can't do
I
it.
feel
The
like
county's got to do it.
It'll be the engineer that gets hired. I think that will answer all these questions.
so-
but-
So to answer your question, the request for proposal was released on July 8th of this year. The proposals are due on the 29th of this month. The respondent interviews are scheduled for August 5th, once we know who those are. The consultant selection would be made on August 8th. Contract signed on August 23rd. Notice to proceed for the first 7 tasks on August 24th. Task 1 to be completed by November 15th of 2022. Tasks 2 through 6 on March 15th of 2024, and then November 1st of 2024, the project completion for this task. So again, if you want to see that, we can give you copies of the proposal.
Yeah,
But you have to remember, this entire project is in the counties
right.
right away.
I get that. I want to be proactive on this to make sure.
And they are.
community-
You can certainly have a
Okay,
copy of this.
Okay, thank you. I
Why don't you
appreciate
give
it.
Tim a call, Cindy, and talk to him
Yeah, well,
softly?
passing on the information is key. I mean, as long as we can share the information with the taxpayers and the businesses in this community, it's a win-win. The last thing I just want to mention is Camp Kimchi is here this week in Cross Lake, 140 or so families that have adopted Korean children. They're exploring our city. They love it here. They feel very welcome. In fact, to the point where they've actually have a Korean home or something in the Railroad Trackers Museum. They've added that for them.
Yeah.
So if you happen to visit with some of the families this week, just encourage them and thank them for being here because they are, you know, an economic driver for our community. Thank you.
Cindy, wait, before you go, do you want to mention your visitor this week at all?
Which one?
Your visitor that you got coming this week?
Oh, Bill Monroe is coming this week. He was a chamber employee for years, a couple of years. He was an employee of the Northland Press. I think you all mostly know him. He's coming on Saturday with his family to spend the week at Boyd Lodge. So if you want to go have lunch with him and catch up, let me know and he'll be here.
Yeah.
Yep,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Tom, come on up. I know you can't.
You got a petition today opposing the road assessments. Last month, you approved a motion that, yes, you're gonna do assessments. Mike is working on the bond issue. You're going into budget season. And if I understand it right, you kind of left it at, well, send us some dates for assessment hearings. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to have resolutions adopting that. So, you know, I'm just looking at the timeline. If they can't just send you some dates and all of a sudden start the process, you guys have to adopt a resolution setting the date for each of those hearings. So if you wait until the August meeting, and then there's mailing and publishing, and that it'll be the end of August or September before you're gonna have those assessment hearings. Meanwhile, Mike's trying to figure out how to structure that bond issue. So I'm not telling you to do anything, I'm just bringing it up that there is a timeline that has to be met, and there's a requirement that a resolution by the council has to be adopted to set those dates, so.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Anyone else for public forum? Okay, we're going to close public forum. Any new business? Any old business?
When are we going to have our first budget meeting?
August 8th, 1
That's
PM.
scheduled.
It's already scheduled?
Yeah. August 8th. Okay, Mr. Person, do you have anything? Okay, we need a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.